following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Trap7 Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Duke Clark. We'll start to the right of me today. Billy's back again in the Yankees jersey, the Jazz Chisholm jersey now.
Yeah.
Who's A-Rod? Was it his first at-bat that he homered? Or was it his second at-bat?
No, he played the other night.
He played in Boston this first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was he got his first hit in Boston, his first home run, first two home runs last night.
Nice.
Using Judge's bat.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Against Stubbs.
Yeah, against a position player.
Well, hopefully he's the shot in the arm the Yankees need because we're since, I think, July 1st or maybe even before that, worst record, June 1st.
Yeah.
Worst record in the MLB other than the Chicago White Sox, which is pathetic. Somehow we're still only like 2.5 games back in the Orioles. But, you know, this is the time that we need to get it going. So
Yeah, Stanton's back. We got Jazz, so
yeah.
so it happens.
And then talking without being introduced, whatever the fuck, I can't talk to it, man. I wanted to make it a cool introduction because your shirt's going to get us into the first topic of the day.
Yes, sir.
But to my left, Harry.
How you doing, man?
Just beard's looking great, man.
Thank you. I haven't seen you in a while.
I know. So, yeah, if you can't read his shirt, that's a Jordan Love highest paid player in the NFL shirt. He might not be highest paid, but he's up there.
He's the highest paid quarterback of all time.
Yeah, okay. I thought so, but someone was gonna be like, "Oh, he's making fucking $300,000 less." He's the highest paid player until the next quarterback gets paid, but yeah, Jordan Love.
Yeah,
What is it, like $56 million a year, $55 million a year, something like that?
I think it starts next year though, because I don't think he's top 10 paid this year.
No, yeah, because this is
he's
because they
signed
picked up his
extension.
option.
Oh, okay,
They picked up his option.
Next year it'll hurt.
So, I mean, Jordan Love and Tua, also, which we have not mentioned yet, Tua also got paid. I think it was $53 million. Yeah.
4 for 212. Yep.
Which technically it's a 4-year contract, but technically it's a 3-year contract because the NFL cap makes 0 sense. Yeah, it's getting nuts, man. Like, Tua.
It makes you look good with Trevor Lawrence for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're willing to admit it.
Yeah.
They're like pussyfooting around it, trying to make excuses for what they were saying in the group chat. But this is the reason I was like, yeah, you got to pay Trevor Lawrence because he's not bad. I don't think he's better than Jordan Love, but he's better than Tua, man. You put fucking Trevor Lawrence on Miami, and we would never have a conversation about, was the number 1 pick and hasn't done enough. Like, we would not be having this conversation. Yeah, it's just like you got Tua, who's like a concussion away from never playing football again.
Right.
I get he led the league in yards last year, but if you watch some of his games, it looked like Tyreek Hill was catching punts.
I don't think he can play in the cold. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like September, October, he'll earn his, like, it'll look like he should get that contract, but come, November, December, January, that playoff game in Kansas City, like, he looked like he couldn't even play.
Yeah, but even in the warm weather, like, you don't think this way as much as I do, but it's like the same thing with Brock Purdy. It's like you can't truly penalize people for the people that are playing around, but at the same time, if you're the one giving these people money, you have to think to yourself, like, can they play this way without these people around them? And it doesn't really matter in Miami's sense, I guess, because Tyreek Hill said he was going to retire anyway, so you don't really have to worry about re-signing him in a couple of years. But what are you going to do? I don't like the Dolphins already kind of fell apart this past offseason. Not offensively, but defensively, they already lost players because they didn't want to pay Christian Watkins. And I get Xavier Howard was a little older, but they're already like kind of purging talent, and they haven't even paid their quarterback yet. And now they pay Tua. And I think everyone who watches Tua play is like understands that he's just not that good.
Yeah. Yeah, and all the guys that got paid, I thought he was the one that probably deserved it the least, especially with the health issues. Not only has he not done anything, but then he's a hit away from never playing again. Like, at least Trevor Lawrence won a playoff game. Jordan Love won a playoff game. I'm not saying that that's, like, anything special, but at least they have that to build from.
I do think it's special, though. Like, winning, like I said in the group chat, there's a whole bunch of outside factors that can control whether or not you are a league leader in passing yards. If you're a playoff team, like getting to the playoffs, you can always talk about like, oh, look at their surrounding cast, look how easy their schedule was, look how they didn't play in any bad weather, they played in. There's all these factors. When you get to the playoffs, sure, some of that stuff is still influential, but you see the difference. You see the difference on how Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs were just an okay team throughout the whole year, and then they make the playoffs and they have a dominant run. That matters. I don't care if you lead the league in passing yards with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and everything, and Mike McDaniels, and then you make the playoffs and you can't even compete.
Right.
Like, you should be, if you're getting paid that much money, you should be able to compete with anyone in the league. Maybe not beat anyone in the league, but you should be able to compete with anyone in the league.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like they're losing all nuance, and they're saying that these quarterbacks have all the power, but I don't think they do. Every year we're getting people who are like, this is one of the top prospects of all time. Like, I don't know. I would take my chances on one of those guys, but I don't know how you guys feel about that before we move on to Love.
Well, I mean, if you look during the season, that same team, high octane offense hangs 70 points in a regular season football game, and then you get to the playoffs where you get to either you're good or you're not, and they showed that they weren't.
They scored 7 points on
it's
underthrown ball that Tyreek Hill caught.
He had to go get that ball.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, I was listening to a podcast and they said a lot of these. It was so funny because the guy was saying a lot of these advanced statistics like disprove the things that we always say about Tua. That a lot of times Deanna throws the ball and Tyreek Hill kind of makes the play, makes him look good. But then the guy who ran off all those stats, the other guy he was talking to was like, "So do you want Tua on your team?" And he was like he just got silent. It's like, and that's what it really comes down to is. I don't know. We're fucking psychopaths in here, and we watch every single football game that's on, and we just never. I've never been impressed by Tua.
No, I haven't either.
But yeah. So then moving on to Jordan Love, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate, so don't fucking punch me in the face. But midway through my point, he's had 10 good games realistically, and we saw this with Jalen Hurts, and maybe Jalen Hurts gets better because the coordinators and stuff now. But it's like maybe it's a flash in the pan, but. Like, what if you paid Jordan Love $55 million and he's just okay now?
Yeah, like he sucks from here on out.
Yeah, like he had a good first 10 games and then they figure him out. Like Jalen Hurts was bad last year. Not awful, but for how much he was getting paid in the
he took a huge step back from the Super Bowl season.
He was bad. And I will give him the excuse because I can't come on here and say that like Brock Purdy only looks good because of his surrounding cast and his coaching, and then not give Hurts that same excuse.
Mm-hmm.
They fired, I think, both their coordinators in the season.
Yeah, well, because they had replaced him before the season, and then
Matt Patricia was like calling plays. He's a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, dude, has a pencil in his ear.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
Yeah, they were one of the lowest teams in pre-stat motion. They really didn't do anything to help him out.
Yeah, they're drawing up screens to Goddard with like Devonta Smith as the lead blocker. Like they did a lot of shit that drove me nuts.
So this year they get Kellen Moore. So Jalen Hurts does deserve a second chance. But if we never see it again, you paid a guy because he had one really good year.
Same thing with Lawrence, and could be the same thing with Love.
Yeah. So, but at least with those three guys, the talent level's there, where it's like you have reason to believe that that's not what's going to happen. Like I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be as bad as he was, especially the second half of last season. There's no reason to believe that Jordan Love was just like borderline bad the first 6 weeks and then great the last 10 weeks, and he's just going to go back to bad.
Right.
So, but it's a crazy thing that a guy who had 10 good games is the highest paid player in the NFL right now.
Yeah, DeMont sent a funny video to the group. Did you guys watch it? It was the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks and like what they've accomplished combined, and like how Mahomes has done all this other stuff more than all 10 of these guys. And the guy doing the video was like hilarious, like saying, "Oh, what Burrow do when he got to this Super Bowl? He choked." He's just going crazy, and it is crazy that like Allen and Mahomes aren't in the top 10, and all these other guys that we know that those two are clearly better than are getting paid. But that's just the way that it is. Like, that's just the way the market is.
Yeah, but then I think Mahomes kind of set the $50 million precedence first, and now these guys are getting, Mahomes is, 6 years in? So whatever.
Yeah, but his contract was weird because he signed like 7. Him and Josh Allen both signed like 7 years.
Right, but what I'm saying is that no quarterback was making $50 million a year until I think it was Mahomes, Watson, I forget who else.
Josh Allen doesn't even make 50 yet.
Right, but it was at that time. But now these guys are signing these extensions, and they're getting that. When it comes time for Mahomes to sign a contract or Allen to sign another contract, I mean...
The other thing people forget, too, because everybody always gave Brady credit, is guys like Mahomes and Allen get way more endorsements, too. Like Jared
Yeah.
Goff has to he has to drain the Lions because he's not getting endorsements and stuff like that. And
Right.
Tua's not gonna. Guys like Mahomes and Allen are still gonna make more money even though they're not from the NFL, like from their contract.
Yeah, they're getting Allen's all over the place, especially Western New York. The car dealerships. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been on.
Gillette.
Yeah, he's on a couple of like the Gillette.
Yeah,
And
those dudes are
Allen's
getting
on.
paid.
The red shirts and discount double check and all. There's tons and tons of things that they're making money off of. But I also realize that those guys are willing to take a restructuring type of thing where they'll get paid back end of their current contract or into their new contract, and they're
Because
not
of them endorsements too, though, like Otani did.
Well, with that's more team willing to do it.
right. That's what I said.
Not
But they're
the
getting
player, because the play, like the thing is the in that situation, the best thing for the team is that they're able to do that because they know they're never going to cut Mahomes or Josh
Yeah.
Allen.
Right.
Where the Lions might not be willing to do that next year with Goff because they're like, when he's 36, we might want to cut him.
Even
So
with
that's
Love and Tua too, like you never
Yeah.
know, like especially with Tua, like possibly one hit away, you can't lock them up for 7 years or whatever you said the Bills did.
Yeah, so that's kind of a luxury for the Bills and the Chiefs that when they're backed up against the wall, they can do that because they know without a shadow of a doubt they're not cutting those guys. So they can do that. But if you were to do that for Tua, you push it back, you can't cut him now, or you're going to be stuck in the situation the Broncos are in with Russell Wilson, where you just have to pay him.
Yeah, I think the big thing with some of these contracts and the good, like at least the Packers were smart enough to not give him a fully guaranteed contract like Cleveland did with Watson. I think I saw a $75 million signing bonus and $155 guaranteed. I think out of the $250.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so there's
saw the
100.
sign- there was a
There's
big
basically
sign-on bonus.
$100 million to play with. If Jordan doesn't do what he's supposed to do, every year, they can look at that and go, okay, let's cut off our nose, bite our face, boom, be done.
Yeah, and then if Love continues his
And if he does,
ascension,
yeah.
they can do the same thing that the Chiefs and the Bills
Yep.
do and just push it back to the end because they're not going to cut him. He's 27 or
Yep.
whatever.
I think the other thing that happens that people don't realize when we judge contracts is some of these organizations are so desperate. That's why the Browns did what they did, praying that Watson could be back to being who he was.
Yeah.
The Jaguars and the Dolphins haven't done anything in a long time, so they're praying that Lawrence and Tua are going to be the guys. The Packers, I guess, maybe surprised me because we did just come off of having Favre and Rodgers, so maybe they're just that confident in Jordan Love and they wanted to get it over with now. But I was kind of surprised by that, that they ended up giving him that much. But it is just the market. The next guy who gets paid, whoever it is, I don't know if you guys know, maybe Brock Purdy or something.
Dak.
Well, Dak's
Dak,
probably.
yeah,
I was gonna say
Dak's gonna
Dak's
crush.
coming up.
And the thing about Dak is he has the free agency to work with. So a team like Vegas or somebody might really pay Dak. He's going to crush Jordan
Yeah.
Love and those guys. He's probably going to get 60, 62 or something because it's not just Dallas extending him. It's going to be
Right.
any team in the league, like I think Vegas, that'll pay him whatever. 'Cause
Yes.
like I said, those teams are desperate.
Which goes back to my original point with the Trevor Lawrence conversation of like, at this point, it doesn't matter that you're paying him more than everyone else. It matters that you're paying him less than the next guy. That's why they signed Trevor Lawrence immediately. That's why out of all these contracts, the only one I really take issue with is Tua. Like, Jared Goff a little bit. I like him a little less than a lot of people. I think the same thing. It's like he got lucky to play in decent weather, even in the playoffs. But his away splits, his bad weather splits are bad too, just like Tua.
Yeah.
The only thing was Tua had to go to Kansas City, and then Jared Goff had a home game, and then went to San
Two
Fran.
home games,
Two home.
because we smacked
Yeah,
Dallas, shit.
yeah.
Which would have been in Dallas.
Yeah,
but still.
yeah. Two home
Still
games,
smacked
two
their
games,
shit.
and then San Fran. My bad. So Jared, I'm not mad at the Jared Goff contract, but that one's also a little iffy to me.
He's at least done things in people's
Yeah,
defense. Like
yeah.
even though he's played on good teams, like we said, he went to a Super Bowl and he went to an NFC Championship game, and probably was a few drops from Josh Reynolds away and a couple better play calls from the coach of probably beating San Fran.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, in Detroit's case, it's like, well, at least we know that with our current situation, we can possibly make a Super Bowl with Jared
Yeah.
Goff, where Tua, you don't even have that.
They probably think that though. Like a lot of people love that team. Like a
I
lot
don't
of people I talk
get
to
it,
say they're going to
dude.
win the division over the Jets and the Bills and stuff like that this year.
But this is why do we treat the Dolphins like this? Everyone treats the Dolphins like this every year. It's been 4 years running now.
The Dolphins are the AFC version of Dallas. That's
Yes.
really what they are. I do not ride high. I like I said, when they scored 70 points, I remember we were sitting there going like, geez, like we were literally watching every time we looked at the screen. Did Tyreek just score again, or is that a replay?
I thought maybe it was their time
Right.
to do something.
But the thing is, they are the AFC version of Dallas. Like, hey, we've got all these great names, we've got talent, we got 10 regular season wins, 11 sometimes, whatever, division title in Dallas's case, but not Miami's. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
Every year for the past 3 years, 2 or 3 years, Miami takes the lead at some point in the division and like, well, it's Miami's time now. And every fucking time they don't do it. So you think coming into this year, let's be real, last year, Tyreek possibly can be better than he was last year, but it's a very small possibility.
It's crazy to think that he, like, you would, and Mostert won't be better.
For someone as good as Tyreek is, I'm not going to say there's no chance because he could do anything. But the odds that he goes over, he didn't end up going over 2,000 because he missed a game. Or did he miss 2 games?
He definitely missed like 2 games and a half or a game and a half.
The odds that he's on pace to go over 2,000 again is very small. The odds that Tua leads the league in passing, very small. The odds that fucking Mostert leads the league in touchdowns,
yeah.
I'm going to say is as close to 0 as possible.
Because A-Chain's going to take a bigger role too. The only thing they have a chance to upgrade is Odell coming over there, and Jalen Waddle's got to have a better, healthier season.
Yeah, but then you look at their defense. Their best player is gone. Jalen Ramsey's another year older. Xavier Howard, who was already bad last year, is not on the team. They still signed Jordan Poyer for like $2 million, which leads me to believe that no one else wanted him. Mm-hmm. Like, where do you see the chance that team is better than the Bills or the Jets? I'm hearing it everywhere. So many fucking podcasts and shit are saying the Bills are like the sneaky team to not make the playoffs. It's like, are you on crack? How do you think that the Miami Dolphins are better than the Bills?
Yeah,
I can see the argument for the Jets.
Miami even had that, like we talk about, well, it was real cold and Tua couldn't perform in Kansas City. You had Sunday night at home versus Buffalo.
Right.
All you had to do was beat them. You're the division champions, and then you get a home game. You don't have to play in the cold, and Tua couldn't do that either.
And that's what they just choked that division lead away.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, we can't
2
win.
years in a row.
Baltimore beat them by like 50.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, if you're going to be, like, it's one thing to be, the center of attention or high, like, oh, we're going to flex this team to Sunday Night Football because everybody wants to watch them. Yeah, but then you go out there and get your ass smacked every time. Like, I'm just, Miami just scares me every time. It's like, man, is this team for real this time? Nope, they're not. They're the same team that they've always been.
Yeah.
They're regular season champs.
Yeah, that's why I don't think Tua should have been paid, because I don't think they're like a serious contender with him at quarterback.
No, I don't either. I mean, the one thing before we move on to the division, he is only the third or the second quarterback to get a second contract since Dan Marino.
Oh wow!
So Ryan Tannehill got one, and then I don't even think he played out his entire contract, and now Tua. So they're also in that team that's kind of desperate that we don't really think about because they have.
It's hard to find a good quarterback like Tua is good compared to the average quarterback, but he's probably not good enough to be one of the top paid.
And Dan Marino's also in that front office.
Is he?
He's always got something to say. Yeah, I think he's like, I don't know, I forget what his title is, like player personnel or I don't remember, but they always show him in the front office.
So I mean, that's good then if he's got Tua's got his like support. He must see something.
That's
in him.
what I say. He must like him for some reason.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Dak is going to make a ton of money, and it's going to make all these teams look smart. But the roof's it's got to at some point, like, it's got to stop. Like, the reason that the Bills and the Chiefs are who they are is because their front office is masterful in this shit. Even with the Diggs contract, it's like they got ahead of everything. Instead of waiting for all these people to sign contracts, they signed Diggs to 25, and now everyone's making 30. Instead of waiting, everyone's making 55. Josh Allen's making 45. Same thing with the Chiefs. Like, at some point, and the Cowboys on the opposite end of that, because now you could have signed Dak to probably 53, 54 if you re-signed him. If you made the decision, now it's like, don't even re-sign him.
Right.
Like, if you didn't know you wanted him a month ago to sign him before these fat contracts came out, then why are you going to give him?
Market for sure.
He is, but he's also got he knows it too. He's got the Steinbrenner of football that'll just pay if they. Oh, Dak was never going to go anywhere. Sure, we'll give him $10 million more per season than the other guys.
Yeah,
Jerry will do that.
It was just pointless.
Yeah,
It's like, Jerry, if you wanted the guy, If you're willing to open the checkbook, then do it now.
Yep. Oh, I agree with you. I totally agree. The business wise, like even when we were talking, when I sent a message to Harry the other day, and first thing in the morning, did you see the Tua extension? He's like, yeah. He goes, God, I hope the Packers sign Love quick because
Dak, yeah.
because that stuff's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
sure enough, boom.
Yeah, and just to finish it off, the Cowboys are like, they're in trouble. They're so top heavy.
Good.
Like if CeeDee Lamb gets hurt, who are you throwing the ball to? They're like, if Micah Parsons gets hurt, who's pressuring the quarterback? Like they do have some of the best players in the league, but they're also top
They
heavy.
don't have any depth.
They don't have
any room
depth.
for injuries. Or
Yeah, and then when they're gonna lose one of these guys. It's either they sign.
It's got to be Dak. I think you got to keep Lamb and Parsons.
Yeah, but if you don't have a quarterback, what does it matter?
Yeah,
Are
but it's
you
kind
ge-
of what we're saying about. I think Dak's definitely a lot better than Tua, but I also don't think he can win.
I
But
don't know, man.
but it's different with Miami because even if they let Tua go, at least they have the infrastructure to maybe draft a guy and put him in, and he could do the same thing as Tua. Dallas doesn't have that now. Like
Right.
you don't like the offensive line's slowly gotten worse, which was the strength of their team forever.
You got old Zeke back at
You have
running
no
back.
running backs that anyone would want. You have CD and then old Brandon Cooks. Defensively, I guess you do have some playmakers, but you don't really have any like elite guys outside of Parsons.
Yeah,
So like, I would hate to do. They might miss the fucking playoffs this year.
yeah.
Like
and-
that. Like, I don't know. They need
I
to
w-
blow.
I-
They
I
need
would
to
be
blow
okay
it
with
up,
that.
dude.
That's one less team the Bears and Packers have to worry
my
about.
my last thing too is for people who were talking about Love getting paid a lot. Obviously, that is what it is. But Green Bay being the youngest team and not having a lot of big contracts, they can afford to do that. That's why they were able to pay him and Clark in the same offseason because there's not a lot of big contracts right now for Green Bay.
And Jair, that's it, right?
Yeah, we don't have CeeDee Lamb and Parsons and
Yep.
and all these guys.
Young
like
core.
San Fran, how they're going to have to pay Purdy with all their other big contracts. We don't have that issue right now, at least for a couple more seasons.
Right,
So
Yeah.
look at your receiving core. They're all on their rookie contracts. They're
Yeah.
all in their second and third years. Like you don't have to even worry about
Yeah.
that. And then they're gelling with the same guy playing for 4 or 5 years
Yep.
going forward. When those guys are going to be like, I don't want to go anywhere. They might take less to stay
at
with
least a
Jordan
couple of
Love.
them.
Yeah.
and that's why we were able to pay Jacobs, even though the running backs don't get paid anymore. We paid McKinney, even though safeties don't get paid anymore. We're in a great spot right now.
Yeah.
We're able to do that. We'll have to revisit this in 2-3 years, but at least for the next couple of seasons, like Green Bay's in a great spot.
And
you
I did-
guys are in the Super Bowl window that Buffalo was in before we paid Josh Allen the 13 seconds shit. Like that's where
Yeah.
you guys are right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, we got a
If
couple good
Love
opportunities.
is who I think Love is.
If he
like,
takes a step forward, I mean, I'll be excited. So
there's
we'll
not a
obviously
team in
see.
the NFC that's clearly better than Green Bay.
Mm-mm.
No.
I mean, you like I would make
San
the
Fran is
argument
the
that
only
Yeah,
team
I
that
was
you
gonna
We,
say
we
Fran.
had them on the ropes.
yeah,
right.
we
And
just
you,
played a
did,
bad
you did.
fourth
You
quarter.
really did. I remember I said, Harry, you guys are a play away from going.
Yeah.
I did take a quick gander. Dan Marino's the special advisor since 2014 of the Miami
Oh wow, so
Dolphins.
he's been doing it for a while
Yep.
too. So he's ass. I didn't know that though. That's cool.
So he's at. All right, so this week we are going to do the AFC North division.
Probably the best division in football.
Yeah, probably the most interesting. Probably the biggest moves in the divisions this year as well. Most of our biggest listeners, AFC North fans. So, if you haven't watched the last 2 weeks, we go through team by team, talk about their real life fantasy players we might want from that team, and at the end we will pick our predictions for who will win. So, starting off with the Browns, they added Jameis Winston, re-signed Zadarius Smith. They signed Jordan Hicks, Tyler Huntley. Most of these are extensions. No needle movers. They're the only team in the division I feel like didn't really do anything. If anything, their one needle mover was bad because Flacco was their best quarterback last year, and he is now gone. But Deshaun Watson should be healthy. This is the third year of doing this. Is it different?
I think it's his best opportunity. Now he's a few years back.
Oh,
in,
Jerry
and-
Judy. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I was
The
gonna
Jerry
bring it
Judy
up.
trade, yeah.
But he's a few years back in, and he's finally as healthy. I feel like the first year with the suspension he was rusty.
And working with the system.
Yeah. So then last year we expected more from him, and he got hurt right away. Never really recovered from it. So yeah, this is the year I expect Watson to be better. I think he will be, and if he's not, then then it's over for him. It's time for them to figure it out, even though they're paying him all that money.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go through their whole draft. They didn't have a first-round pick. They got Michael Hall Jr. in the second round. defensive tackle, and then Zach Zinter in the third round. 2 pretty good draft picks. I thought they got good value on. Sorry, go ahead though.
Oh
You were
no,
gonna say
I'm
something.
just listening. I have been a Deshaun Watson fan since Clemson. I even traveled down to Florida to watch them beat Alabama, but it kind of sucked for me to watch him kind of just muddling his way around like he didn't know what the hell he was doing, regardless of who was around him, and it almost seemed like a shade of Justin Fields like last year. He kept looking to run and then throw on the run. And that's not going to work in the NFL. You can't run the option like you did before. I'd like to see him bounce back. I'd like to see Nick Chubb healthy, even though Jerome Ford is, nice fill-in, change of pace back, all that type of stuff. Jerome Ford's not Nick Chubb, and if Nick Chubb is healthy, that takes a lot of pressure off Deshaun Watson, and he didn't have that. And now you got Amari Cooper, you got Jerry Jeudy. I mean, you got guys that know each other, which is good. Njoku had a great year for in my opinion, was his breakout year. I don't think we saw much of anything prior to that.
We saw big games, but we never saw
big games, never a big
consistency.
consistency,
Yeah.
never a big season.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Because I liked him a lot in college as well, but I can honestly say that I never drafted him anywhere because I just didn't believe it was going to translate. Finally, at a big year, and now it's like, all right, do your thing. But for me, their big question mark is still like their defense stinks. It looks like they're a bunch of no names, but to me their secondary is okay. That's one thing I feel like they're good. They have a good spot, but I don't know. I don't even remember half of their names. Besides, I was just mentioning to you Zadarius. I don't even know half of their defense, and I'll be the first to admit it. Well, I shouldn't say that. I do know Myles Garrett, but I don't know. We'll see. I think this team finishes last in their division.
Do you think the defense takes a step back then? Because the defense was very good last year. Like they were that kind of carried the team until Flacco. They did collapse at the end of the season.
Right. That's I should correct myself. They were good for most of the season. Then they fell apart.
Yeah, they did collapse the last
they
3 weeks.
They
of the
couldn't
season.
do anything right. And for me, it's like, if you take Garrett out of the equation, what do they got?
That is true because when Myles Garrett was healthy, he was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and then he kind of got hurt towards the end of the year. And I thought going into last year, I was like, oh, Myles Garrett's sack numbers are always lower because he never had another guy on the other side. They never had good defensive tackles. They brought in Tomlinson. They brought in Zadarius Smith. I was like, oh. And then as soon as he got hurt, it was still the same thing, even though they added those guys. Yeah. But yeah, on paper they look like a Super Bowl team, but I just why if Deshaun Watson can't succeed behind the best offensive line in football, what is taking him so long? That's why I don't think
that's a bad look when
why I don't think
Flacco
it happens.
came in and put up the numbers that he did.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that injury was serious, like the shoulder injury.
Yeah,
kind of what happened with Cam Newton. He went from MVP to not being able to
But
play.
he never
again.
came back.
Yeah, and he was
trying to play
Yeah.
too much to where Watson actually sat out the rest of the season, has a full off season, and is supposed to be 100%. Cam never did that.
I don't know if it's the same injury, but the Baker Mayfield thing too. He had a messed up shoulder, but looked like he was about to be the next best thing. And before last year, looked like he was out.
you have to get that.
as a quarterback, you need your shoulder.
Yeah, you have to get that corrected to make all the throws. So, but yeah, their defense was like number 1 in the league until the end. They got shredded.
They
in the
did
playoffs.
collapse. Yeah.
I don't know. Cleveland is a really good team. It's just a tough division, and they're Cleveland. That's the problem I have with teams like Cleveland and Dallas, and for a while was Detroit until this past year. Is those teams just no matter what they do, it never works out for them somehow.
That's probably me, but that's probably my personal thing. Cleveland's like, you just stink. You
just immediately have
just
a
gotta
bias.
do it. Yeah, you have to prove it.
Stink.
That's how I feel about the Jets too, and I think the Jets and the Browns are very similar teams.
But the Jets have at least made an AFC championship in our time.
That's true. They're
You know
not
what I mean?
as
Now
bad
you got
as the
Aaron
Browns.
Rodgers,
Yeah,
who
that's true.
Obviously, I'm gonna think is gonna take them to the next level. But
They went back to back with Sanchez.
yeah, so it's like the Browns never do anything. They beat the Steelers that one year in the playoffs, and that was like
Baker,
literally
yeah.
their Super Bowl.
That is true. I don't really have high hopes for this team. It's Nick Chubb though. That's what we have to talk about. That's the most exciting news of the offseason. This man blew for the same time the second knee, and not just one ligament. Both injuries were multiple ligament injuries. Yeah. His college injury and the injury he had last year. He's already squatting 550 pounds.
Yeah, dude's an animal.
Like, is he gonna be AP? Like, is he just gonna come back the year after an ACL and fucking? I don't know. That was AP's first ACL on that knee, though,
Yeah.
right? Like this, I like everything in me is saying there's no fucking way you can't have two major fucking knee injuries on the same knee and be fine.
Yeah,
And squatting isn't like the explosiveness you need in football. It helps,
but it's still
sure,
crazy.
but it's unbelievable, dude.
I think, like he said, with Jerome Ford being pretty serviceable, that they can ease Chubb into that role, start him with 5-10 carries a game. If he's feeling funny, like sit him out and know that Jerome Ford can handle it, and then hopefully come November, December, Nick Chubb's as good as he's going to get. Again.
I can see it now, man. Nick Chubb is on a roster. He has like 100 total yards through week 8 in fantasy. Someone drops him because they're like, I just can't. Like, I'm in the rush for playoffs, and then someone picks him up, and that guy wins the fucking championship because the next 3 weeks that dude averages 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, I can see it now, and I'm probably gonna draft him somewhere, and I'm gonna think that the whole season, and then it's never gonna happen.
Well, I did read that he is on pace, but they said if they were to project or say anything now that he will not suit up or he will not play in week 1, but they're looking for it to happen within the first month of the season.
So he won't go on the pup list
He
or
won't
whatever?
go on the pup list. They're not going to, like you said, because I think I mentioned it to you, that they're not going to rush him in even if he's ready. They're like looking like he's ahead of schedule. But that happens with a lot of people, that they look ahead of schedule until they put those pads on
you play a
and
real
play
game.
games.
Yeah, guys
like,
are really hitting you
yes,
hard.
like a guy's taking your leg out and knocking it from underneath you. Then, like, are you getting right back up, or are you staying there and like wincing in dire pain? Like,
The thing is if it wasn't his second one, it wouldn't be that big of it. It would still be a big deal. But if it wasn't his second one, he's almost a year out because it did happen early on in the season. So you would still, it wouldn't be like the Saquon injury where it's like half his season he was playing before that year mark. The when he came back, that first year was awful. Like, if it was his first one, he'd play most of the season after that 12-month mark, and no one would really have these questions, I don't think. But we also have 40-year-old quarterbacks coming from Achilles, so maybe this doesn't affect him in some way. Like, I don't know what these doctors are doing.
all
now.
I know is that when that injury happened, I thought Harry lost a family member.
Yeah, I was sick about that.
In one league, I lost Nick Chubb, and I forgot who my other running back was.
He was literally like, no.
I thought his career was over. I traded him.
Yeah, it was. We all watched that Buffalo Wild Wings, right?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. I'll say we should start, I think, with the Bengals. So going through some of their offseason additions: Trent Brown, offensive tackle; Geno Stone, safety brought over from Baltimore; Mike Gesicki, tight end; Zach Moss, running back, who will be fighting with Chase Brown for Joe Mixon's spot; Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle; Von Bell. They released Nick Scott, traded Joe Mixon, and then there's a bunch of like smaller name guys that
Tyler Boyd.
Oh, yeah, Tyler Boyd, went to Tennessee. T. Higgins still currently on the roster. And then they lost DJ Reader, Jonah Williams, Irv Smith, Chidube, Uzue. And, yeah. So, let me go through their draft as well. Sorry. They drafted Amarius Mims. That's always been their problem, offensive line. Signing Trent Brown, drafting Amarius Mims. Drafted Chris Jenkins, which is a defensive tackle I really liked, and then Jermaine Burton, who a lot of people are high on, and then I'm not going to go through all their picks, but Eric All's another pick that a lot of people are interested in. All of that is cool, but the story going into the offseason has to be Joe Burrow's health. Apparently, they came out and said that he's not going to throw 3 days in a row at any point during camp, preseason, any of that. Because of his wrist. He's had 2 major injuries he's been in the league 4 years, 5 years. 2 major injuries in 4 years. And that even going, we kind of skipped the Browns in fantasy. That's my bad.
That's all right. Keep going, bro.
Yeah. With Burrow, that affects obviously everything. He's the quarterback. It affects on-field play. More importantly for me, I have Jamar Chase in like 7 leagues. Fantasy, that I think is the biggest question mark in the entire division is Joe Burrow's health. I like him more than any quarterback in the league, not named Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. But if he's not 100%, they're not as good of a team anywhere else as the other teams in the division.
Yeah, they
Obviously
need
outside
him
of
to be.
receivers,
They
yeah.
need him to be a top 3
Yeah.
quarterback to make up for the areas that they lack versus the Ravens and Steelers and Browns. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, losing Joe Mixon, I think, is going to be a bigger issue than people think. I know his numbers weren't like great, but he's reliable. He played a lot. You know, he's out there all the time. I do like Chase Brown, but I don't know that he could be an every down back. Zach Moss is coming off a career year, but besides that, he sucked his whole career with the Bills. There's definitely a lot of question marks, and if Burrow's not healthy, then yeah, they're in trouble. I mean, we can say that about any team with their quarterback, but like he's got to be he can't have that. He can't have the slow September starts and all that. He needs to get out there and be himself right off the bat.
And he hasn't had a full offseason once. But he hasn't had a real training camp, real preseason. He hasn't had like a real ramp up one single time in his entire career because of injuries or whatever. And it obviously didn't affect him in the seasons that he came into the season healthy. I mean, his 2 seasons healthy are amazing, especially for a sophomore and third year. But it's already such a like chronic issue that's like this is the healthiest most people ever are in their entire careers. Like I'm just like getting flashbacks to Andrew Luck, and it's like they've done everything they can over the past couple of years to improve that offensive line, and not all the moves have worked, and they, to their credit, have moved on from the people that they thought were the fixes, and now they have Trent Brown and Amarius Mims, and
those are huge.
So their offensive line right now, Ted Karras, good center. The only weakness I can say is Cordell Volson, probably. Amarius Mims is probably going to rotate in with Trent Brown because they also have Orlando Brown, which they signed last year. But
they're doing everything they can. They're making all the right moves, in my opinion.
They're protecting their asset. I mean, you're looking at the same thing I was looking at. Trent Brown right now is listed as out. If he's out, you're gonna slot a rookie right tackle in.
And a raw rookie right tackle too. He's like someone that could end up being the best offensive tackle in the league, or he can be a bust. He's like one of the out of all the tackles that this great draft for tackles, he was the one that had the biggest discrepancy in where he could be. A lot of people are super high on Jermaine Burton, so the wide receiver room is going to be insane, even if Burton's just okay. But you need Burrow to be healthy, man. Like, they've invested in the defensive line, invested in the offensive line. I think they're kind of trying to meet the other teams in the division on physicality, because that's what the AFC North is known for, and that's where they've been severely lacking.
They still got Hendrickson.
They got Hendrickson, Hubbard. They have Murphy that they drafted. I think he was late first round, or he might have been second round 2 years ago, but was nothing. He's been nothing so far. They lost DJ Reader, but they kind of replaced him with Rankins, and I really liked Chris Jenkins as well. He was I wanted the Bills to go after. So I think they're doing their best, but man, their safeties were awful last year. They signed Geno Stone. Is he going to be a?
Yeah, I do like that signing a lot.
But is he going to be enough? I mean, they thought, like, everyone says safety isn't a big position. They lost Jesse Bates, and their entire defense changed.
Yeah, he was a leader on the defense for sure.
I was just looking at the same thing. I was like, Jordan Battle, Geno Stone. I'm like, hey, I don't know.
Yeah, it's I think they're the least complete team in the league, but if Joe Burrow's healthy, it doesn't matter. Or not in the league, sorry, in the division. But that's like the question. To me, it's like if Joe Burrow is who Joe Burrow can be, I might pick him to win the division. If he's even hindered a little bit, they're coming in third. Like they're the team with the biggest question marks for sure, in my opinion. Fantasy wise, how scared are you of drafting Jamar Chase because of this?
I'm not at all.
You're not.
No.
So Jamar Chase is up there. Where do you have Jamar Chase ranked and as wide receivers?
I haven't really done my own yet, but like seeing mocks, him and Jefferson go between like 5 and 9. Mm-hmm. Two guys who were going
5 and 9.
Guys who were going 1 and 2 last year.
You've got TMC, CeeDee Lamb,
Tyreek,
Brees, Bijan are going 4 and 5.
I did some early drafts, and Brees and Bijan were behind those guys, but I definitely could see them moving up. There's a lot of hype coming.
Yeah,
no,
Steve just did an FFPC, and Chase went 6, and Jefferson I think went 9. So I'm all over having guys who are a year from being the number 1 and 2 pick in fantasy. One's getting Joe Burrow back. Obviously, Jefferson has more questions, but I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't understand the Jefferson questions. Like, we talked about it last week. I'm not going to harp on it too much, but like, it doesn't matter who's been quarterback. Every time he's been in there, he's been a top
Yeah,
five.
that's what
I was
wide
going to say
receiver.
those two guys honestly are just another. I mean, even more athletically gifted than DeAndre Hopkins, and those guys have done well with whoever is in there
Yeah.
throwing the ball.
Well, Jamar Chase, that's my question mark, and maybe it's just because I'm like worried about it because I've been burned by him not having Burrow on the field so many times. Jefferson has done great with whoever. Chase has had great games with other people, but he's not been consistently good with other people.
Yeah, he needs Burrow to, hit
His rookie year when Burrow was healthy, he was I think number 2 wide receiver or something like that in his rookie year.
Yeah,
And then he had spent his best year so far
Right.
because Burrow's been
and he's
up
had his
down.
own injury
Yeah.
issues as well too. We talk about Burrow, but Chase is another one who has to stay healthy. Higgins has to stay healthy. We haven't seen the full potential of this team, and it's a team that went to the Super Bowl. So I
Yeah.
think that's scary for the rest of the league if they are to stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean that team that went to the Super, like it was a lot better defensively, but the reason they lost was their offensive line. I mean, the play that sticks out is always going to be the Donald almost sacking Joe Burrow, can't hit Jamar Chase one-on-one down the field.
Yeah,
Now offensive line's better, but the defense I don't have high hopes for. So, yeah, I don't know. Running back wise, I'm a little bit higher on Chase Brown than Zach Moss, but Zach Moss is like you can get him in the 7th round. He's a starting running.
he had a
back,
good
and
season last year.
He did.
So I get it, but I'm with you. I love Chase Brown.
I like Chase Brown, but I think for this particular scenario, I think Zach Moss is the perfect fit for Cincinnati because he is the kind of grind it out, give me 3 or 4 yards.
He is closer to Joe Mixon. So if they want to stick to what they were doing,
that same, offense, same playbook. Zach Moss is probably close to a plug and play for Joe Mixon. Chase is he's just versatile, and that's why I mean Zach Moss is too, but I just think Zach is more of a bruiser than Chase is.
yeah, Chase is the explosive, can turn any play into a touchdown kind of guy.
And I like Zach Moss. I loved when the Bills drafted him, but that's just an example of another guy that just didn't get used properly. And now I think this is the year where the Bills are finally going to use their running back properly because now you've got, the smorgasbord of wide receivers and see who steps up versus having that one guy you feel like, I got to throw to him 20 times a game or whatever. But I like the Bengals. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I love all running backs that leave the Bills. If a running back leaves the Bills, draft him. Draft him in fantasy, man. Anything else on the Bengals front before we move on to the Ravens? I will end with the Steelers just for Damon, Ken, and all those guys. Even though the Ravens probably
97 Steeler fans in one
Yeah.
group.
even though the Ravens deserve it, I will end on the Steelers. Anything more for the Bengals before we move on?
The Bengals are playing a last place schedule, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's huge too. I mean, obviously their division's tough, so their schedule's going to be tough, but that's a pretty big advantage playing a last place schedule.
For sure. I think it's
They played New England week 1. The other 3 teams are going to be playing Miami, Buffalo, and the Jets. Like that's huge.
Yeah,
They
I
got
think-
a free win versus 3 teams in a really tough game.
I think Gesicki gives Burrow a tight end weapon that he really didn't have before either. Because he, again, another guy just not used properly, in my opinion. And I just feel like you've had, Irv Smith and a couple of these other guys the last
Who
few
was the
years.
guy they had 2-3 the Super Bowl year?
They had
Not Henry Hurst. No,
they had I can see him right now. He went to the Jets, and then he wasn't that good with them.
Usawa.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
and he
Usawa,
made him look good. Obviously, Uzama, yeah. He hasn't done anything since
Yeah.
then. They did have Hurst for a year or something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But they didn't do anything.
again, just another stop fill.
Yeah.
But Gesicki's a legit target. Like I feel like he'll be somebody that Burrow can check down to if those other guys are covered.
And people are intrigued by Eric Hall as well. So moving on to the Ravens. Derrick Henry, one of my favorite offseason acquisitions of the season. Chris Board, Josh Jones, Kadar Holman, who I do not know, and Deontay Hardy, who came from the Bills. That guy sucks. They released Tyus Bowser. They traded Morgan Moses. Re-signed Aguilar, Matabuke, some other guys, and then Kyle Van Noy. Lost Gus Edwards, Geno Stone, Devin Duvernay, Ronald Darby, John Simpson, Delshawn Phillips, Patrick Queen, Kevin Zeitler, Jadeveon Clowney, Rock Ya-Sin, and then J.K. Dobbins, which they already lost before. They lost.
Yeah,
in
they
free
lost their
agency.
defensive coordinator, right?
Yeah, and then Mike McDonald, best defensive coordinator in the league probably. is obviously the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks right now. The Ravens are a team I can see taking a massive step back. Their offensive line was their strength last year. They lost 3 of their offensive linemen, lost some defensive players. I don't want to say too massive because I think Derrick Henry's such an upgrade over Gus Edwards. And Derrick Henry had the worst offensive line in football last year and still looked like he was 26 and not 29. And now that he goes in the system where Lamar Jackson takes the pressure off of him, offensive line, even if it's a step back from what they had last year, is way better than what the Titans had last year. Derrick Henry is going to have a great year.
Who'd Baltimore draft?
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I keep forgetting this. Nate Wiggins, great fucking pick.
Okay, yeah.
Roger Rosengarten, don't know anything about him. Adiza Isaac, Devontae Walker, TJ Tampa. TJ Tampa went in the 4th. He was a guy who a lot of people had in the early 2nd. I don't know why he fell so far. Rasheen Ali, Devin Leary, Nick Samick, and whoever. I can not pronounce this guy's name. A guy from Purdue. So, definitely think they're a good team. Do not see them winning 13 games again. Do not see them being the dominant force that they were last year. Disagree, agree.
I'm in the middle. I still think they're the team to beat in the division. I still think they're a Super Bowl contender if Lamar can ever play like a good playoff game. I mean, they definitely have some huge losses, but I know Harbaugh will figure it out. I think he's just a great coach. Derrick Henry's a huge addition. Mark Andrews will be healthy. Zay Flowers will be in his 2nd year. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to be the dominant 1 seed that wins 13 games, and that division is going to be a lot tougher if Watson and Burrow stay healthy and Wilson or Fields is a good quarterback. Last year they had a tough division, and then it ended up being all backup quarterbacks as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see. Now they have to play the Bills. They have to play the Chiefs. They have to play their their first place schedule. But I still think they're the team to beat. What about you?
I think they take a step back this year. To me, it's always like, obviously getting Derrick Henry is a upgrade over just about anybody in football at that position. I like the idea that they can actually try to run the ball without Lamar having to run the ball. But I don't know, man. I just feel like I was so high on them last year, and I kept telling everybody, the Ravens are better. The Ravens just smacked the Niners. The Ravens are this is their year. And then nothing. And then when it got to the time for Lamar to have the chance to put his name, he won the MVPs, and that's great. But when it gets to the playoffs and you got to put your name out there, put your team on your shoulder, he shit the bed.
Like he always does, man.
The Chiefs, literally 2 quick plays, boom, boom, boom. It's 14-0 or whatever, 14-3 or whatever. They never recovered.
Yeah, the Chiefs only scored 17.
Yeah, the defense did
come through. Yeah.
Right.
The defense shut them down more than anyone could.
I don't know. I actually have always loved watching them play because some people will look at it as boring, but to me it's like I love seeing when I'm watching football. I love when people get run over and then they take a deep, throw a deep pass or whatever. But if Joe Burrow's healthy, I just feel like they're the team to beat in the division. That's just the way I've felt that. Lamar and the Ravens are nasty. They've got my guy Roquan. Like, I love watching that team. I don't know. I just feel like they take a step back. Again, we talked about it before. It's like some of these teams that are doing first place schedules, like the Lions, the Ravens, I feel like they take a step back, and those teams that were muddling are now going to, especially a team like the Bengals and the Packers, can hop over them.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think the Ravens, Mike McDonald's a bigger loss than a lot of people. I mean, people don't usually look at...
I love the replacement, though.
Who they replace him with?
The defensive backs coach.
Oh, yeah, so it's someone in the same tree. Maybe they don't...
We'll see now that he has that job, but from what I've seen, he fires the players up, and they're, ready to run through. Well, that's why I wanted Green Bay to get as the defensive coordinator. But, yeah, it could be a huge loss because now he has more responsibility.
Yeah,
and lost some guys.
I think he can be really good and still not be what Mike McDonald was.
Yeah, that's fair.
They showed Mike McDonald's stats last year. No one beat Kyle Shanahan's systems, like Kyle Shanahan's tree better than him. Obviously, they smacked the Niners when the Niners were looking unbeatable.
4 or 5 picks.
They defensively they won the game against Chiefs. not won the game, but they won the matchup. Like, if you hold Pat Mahomes to 17 points, you got to win that
Especially
game
when you
every
got 14
single.
in 2 possessions.
Yeah.
They didn't score I don't think
Yeah.
they scored in the second half. I think they had like 7 straight 3-and-outs or something like that. Something like they played a great game.
You gotta be. If you hold Pat Mahomes to 17 points, you gotta win the fucking game. I mean, going all the way back to Brady, it's like when he was held to 17, 20 points, and that's how the Giants beat him.
Yeah.
When you get the GOAT in that position, you got to take advantage.
But if we're talking regular season,
but
Lamar,
yeah, we are talking about regular season too.
Like, because the reason I was with what I told Damon why I agreed with you, Burrow's better because I just think he's more cold blooded, and he's already proven that. When Lamar plays in the regular season, there's not many more guys more successful. He wins games. Even when he left, he got hurt the one year. They were 8-2 or whatever. Literally, still made the playoffs with Huntley because Lamar gave them such a cushion. Even with the losses, I think when you have Lamar at quarterback, you give him Derrick Henry in the backfield. You got Kyle Hamilton and Roquan on defense. You have Harbaugh, who's one of the greatest coaches ever. It's just tough to think how far can they step back. They win 11 games instead of 13. Are we thinking they're going to step back to 8 or 9 wins? Like,
no. So I don't think it's a huge step back. I just don't see them as like
the 1 seed.
Yeah, I don't see them as the clear best team.
Right now, I think they're
league.
the third highest odds to win the Super Bowl after Kansas City and San Fran.
But I think a lot of that has to do with recency bias. Like, you're just Vegas knows if they were going to put them any lower, people would hammer it.
Yeah, so put them up there. People will bet Lamar. And yeah, it's fair.
I guess the other thing I look at is, the receiving core. Like, these guys got to step up. I mean, literally, Aguilar is their number 1 receiver.
No,
well, they got Flowers.
No, but what I'm saying is like production.
No,
Flowers crushed.
Did he? Okay,
Yeah,
I stand corrected. I have Zay. I just didn't. I thought
Flowers did well.
Aguilar had more touchdowns. That's what I'm looking at. But
that's possible to have more touchdowns.
I'm thinking touchdown wise, but regardless. But like, where is Rashad Bateman? Please show up. Like, show up for this team.
He can't stay healthy.
Odell is gone now. They don't have to worry about that headache. Like, he's in Miami. Like, let them deal with all that.
Yeah, Andrews is back. Like I said, see if he could get back to being.
But is he? Because I mean, he was hurt the year before that.
No,
as
I know.
Well, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 3 years now since he's actually been an elite tight end. We kind of throw his name around there like he's Travis Kelce, but he's only done it once or twice, maybe.
Right.
I mean,
right?
Yeah, we'll see.
I just for me, it's like Lamar has to become at least a partial passing quarterback. Like, stay in there and take some hits.
I agree with that for them to beat like Mahomes and Allen.
I'm saying, but
I'm saying as far as just to win the division, I still think no matter what they'll walk into 10, 11 wins.
Well, yeah, they're a good team. I just think they take a step back. I don't think they're the number 1 seed. I mean, for me, it's like I said, just that again, Lions, Ravens, whatever conference you want to look at. There's those teams that have 12, 13 wins. It's not that easy to do that in this league. That's why repeating is so impressive by what the Chiefs have done.
You got to be hungry for sure.
And the only position that I think they got better at is Derrick Henry. Like, Derrick Henry, and then if Keaton Mitchell healthy is a better 1-2 punch than J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards.
Yeah, if Mitchell comes back healthy and can give them that home run hitting ability with Henry punishing you every other play, and like being scared of Lamar, like they can run for like 200 yards a game.
That's a fact.
But you said they lost 3 offensive linemen. We'll see how they replace those guys as well.
Like, their rookie is starting at right tackle right now.
Who is it?
Roger Rosengarten. And the only reason I'm not questioning the pick is because for some reason the Ravens just are the best at drafting.
Grab Tyler Lindenbaum. Oh, it'd be all pro.
Kyle Hamilton, all pro.
And I gotta take my flowers on this one because I was saying Kyle Hamilton was the best defensive player in that draft forever, and I was like, I don't care about the safety position. Yeah, it's like I don't care about the fucking safety
Wiggins
position.
is gonna be good though. That's
draft
to the secondary.
They also they picked up Eddie Jackson.
For real? From the Bears?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're out here then. He'll get a couple pick sixes on that defense. They'll be fine.
So right now he's listed as the backup behind Marcus Williams, though. Their safeties are really good. Their cornerbacks, though, I mean, like Marlon Humphrey, still probably really good. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's getting a little older.
That sounds solid to me.
Yeah, Wiggins isn't listed as a starter right now. Easily can take that job. But, yeah, they draft well. They're coached well enough. They have an MVP candidate at quarterback. They have Derrick Henry. Like, they're going to be a good team. I just don't think they'll be as good as last year.
Yeah, I wouldn't put my money on them to win the Super Bowl, but as far as talking about AFC North, like, I do think they are the team to beat. I'm not saying I think they're going to win. I'm still mixing that up in my head before we give our predictions. I'm just saying, like, they got to be the team to beat. All
right, fantasy-wise, I love Derrick Henry. You picked on me 2 years ago for drafting him because
I'm with it now.
because you
though.
said he was too old and he had.
And he was on Tennessee, though. I really didn't think he could put up numbers on a team that. In my defense, he did take a lot of snaps off at the end of games because Tajee Spears had to come in and catch the ball.
I mean, he won the championship on your head. That's all right, but
Well, it was 2 years ago.
that's when I drafted him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was on my team last
But
year.
like this year, he should be on a team where he doesn't have to come off the field because they're trailing. They can give him as many carries as they feel comfortable giving him. He's going to have a million red zone opportunities. He's going to face lighter boxes or like the idea of teams going after Lamar.
Yeah.
I think this is just a whole different story. I think even if he was 33 years old, I'd draft him because this is just where any halfway decent running backs you want him to be. And that's why Gus
Let me
Edwards
find his
8, Mark
ADP real
Ingram
quick.
8, J.K. Dobbins 8, Keaton Mitchell 8, whoever you can think of
Yep.
comes in and eats on this team. Besides Delvin Cook, he didn't have any good games with them, but
But they're also the other team that drives me crazy too, where it's like if you have Derrick Henry, if they get the ball at their own 1 yard line, Derrick Henry gets you down there to the 2-3 yard line, and then Justice Hill scores a touchdown.
yeah, Justice Hill's another one who's done well. Yeah, they are frustrating because they never give a guy 20 or 30 carries, and I'm sure they probably will.
Oh, they will now.
Though they might save Henry, though. They might look at it like, oh, we're up 17-0 already. Let's give Henry a few series off and save his body for the playoffs. That does scare me a little bit. But I think his touches will be so efficient, 5 yards a carry and a lot of red zone touches that he'll still eat regardless.
And there's not, I mean, Justice Hill can catch the ball, but there's not that, there's not that guy like Gus Edwards was like, here, throw me the ball. Here. Like they don't have that.
And Keaton Mitchell's coming off that
pass
injury
catching
too,
ball
so.
or pass catching back, to take away all of that from Henry.
So Henry has moved up. He wasn't in the third round in ADP. Now he's at the back end of the second.
I think I've seen him. I only looked at a couple boards in FFPC, but I'm pretty sure I seen him go 2-1, 2-2, 2-3
Wow.
area.
So yeah, he's jumping up then. He was a great.
That's
value.
why drafting in May and
I
June is
know.
really where it's at.
Dude,
but
I try all the fuck. I still have the same $35 in there 'cause every
yeah,
time
but
I look.
I was saying like the 350 or the
Yeah.
1800. Like if people who have the bread to do that, that's
Yeah.
I think where the best teams are drafted.
If you know fantasy, that's where the money is because it's just like.
The reports aren't out yet.
Yeah, I mean, well, we talked about this last week too. It's like people like us who put in like the effort early on. I mean, back when it was magazines or whatever, or like even looking up stats on our own. It's like we hit trends before they became well known,
Right.
and now the podcast culture, which
Twitter's
we're fucking
got
a part of,
videos
obviously.
out.
Yeah.
I'm watching
Yeah.
full games on Twitter every day. I could pretty much look at any team's highlights I want to see.
Yeah, like I gotta give you. Did you look over the
No.
thing we bought? Yeah, like all these stats are just available to everyone. So it's like Derrick Henry probably a couple years ago. Like I got fucking Larry Fitzgerald in the 7th round every year for fucking 4 years because
Yep.
everyone and Derrick Henry probably would be that if you go back 10 years and you take away all these podcasts and stuff and you just put Derrick Henry there, you'd be like, oh, he's old. He's gonna go in the fucking 8th round and then he wins you the
Bless you.
league. So yeah, that is 100% true. Like, if you guys are fantasy fucking psychopaths like us, find early leagues that you can. Like, that's a good way to win money. I did a couple on Sleeper, like just $20 leagues where it's like, oh, we're just fucking drafting because we're
You're
out of our
bored.
mind. And then you get a team that ends up by the end of summer looking like, how the fuck did you get
Yep.
all those guys? Because they jump up ADPs.
It was how me, you, and Joe's Trap Nerd team
Yeah.
a few years ago. We were undefeated in the regular season. We drafted in like June.
Yeah.
And then we did well with the other team too, but it was like that team in June was so good because we were getting Amari Cooper in like the 6th round. Then he ended up being
Yeah.
like a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett, we got in like the 9th round, and he wasn't like much higher, but he was probably like a 6th, 7th round.
Yeah,
pick.
you're starting to get, and then you're adding like we were able to still get like Aaron Jones and James Conner with Cooper and Lockett, but those guys were all supposed to be in like the same round or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
similar rounds.
You probably could have got Nick Chubb in the fucking 12th round, and
Now
it's like
probably a 7th round.
yeah,
pick or
7th,
something.
8th
Yeah.
round, like, and maybe he's nothing. But if he ends up winning you a league in the 12th round, it's so yeah. It's like now that shit's not gone now, but you just got to know that by this.
Fantasy's harder now.
It definitely is hard. Well, people take it a lot more seriously in general. It's not just like even the leagues I'm in with people who aren't as crazy as us, they still take it a lot more serious
Right.
than back in the day where it was just like a fun thing for them.
But like you said, there's so many more resources to draw from where even, you can just grab a list and just like, oh, okay, fantasy pros. Oh, okay, I'm follow this and draft the best player available. And
those guys are
guys are okay.
Yeah, two things that have changed, unfortunately for me, fantasy and poker are both probably as hard as they've ever been with all the new technology and
Yeah.
podcasts. And there's so many
Reading
ways to get
odds
better.
and what cards are there, counting
Back
and
then,
knowing.
there wasn't any of that for fantasy or poker, so
Yeah.
the best players were dominating.
Yeah, and the best I think in a couple of my drafts, I'm gonna like my cheaper drafts. I'm just gonna like make my own trend. Like
Yeah.
like think the trend that's going to come next. Because if you know of a trend, everyone probably knows of it, and you're gonna have to overdraft these guys.
Oh, if you want, so I always tell anybody, you want somebody, go get them. Don't if you think they're going to be that guy, pick them. So everybody looks, oh, I'm going to wait for this guy for the 6th round or the 7th round, and then by the time that comes, he's already gone 2 rounds ahead of that. So what you were thinking was wrong to begin with.
Yeah.
Draft him when you want to draft him.
I'm 50-50 with you there because I agree. If you think Garrett Wilson's better than like Tyreek Hill or whatever,
Yeah,
you
like
have to
other
take
day,
him.
Bush said that. Like, yeah, like
you have to take him 3rd overall because you're not going to get him. But then I'm also the guy like, if I do really think I should be able to get this guy in the 4th round.
If
so
you
I'm
know
just
your
gonna
guys.
add this guy. So
Yeah.
sometimes that backfires still because then you have somebody else in the league that's, I like DK Metcalf too. So
Right.
he ain't dropping to you.
Right.
but-
Well, and that's exactly like I know for 100% fact that 9 times out of 10 when I'm in a draft, I'm the only Bears fan in the draft, and someone's gonna
that helps.
and
man.
someone's sitting there going, oh well, he probably is gonna draft Cole Kmet right here, and it's like, no, dude, I'm gonna draft the best player available. I learned a long time ago you can get your favorite players, but hopefully your favorite players aren't in the top 10 because you're not gonna get them. But
that is a good point by you though, because if I'm sitting by you and there's 5 receivers I like, and I say I like Keon Coleman better than Keenan Allen, but you're picking in that window, I'm
You're
going to
thinking-
take Keenan Allen just to make sure you don't get me there, and then hope you'll
Right.
pass the next
Right.
guy because he's not a bear.
I know for a fact that I've literally watched so many of my drafts, like in a couple times in Russ's league. Guy will literally and I'm like, this guy he probably thinks I'm trying to draft, like Justin Fields.
It's
right?
nice for you when you're not,
But no, because
and
I'm
then
not.
They think you are.
At
So
the,
that,
at
yeah.
the thing, I literally had it going. Or the other thing that plays into it for me is people like, oh, it's a Buckeye. Like, 'cause last year I took Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. Like, I had 4 guys that right in a row. But to each his own. But for me, you're right. Get a strategy for sure.
that nobody else is
That
on.
nobody else is on.
Execute it, yeah.
Yeah, because because even if you get one league out of that, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that I am the worst at is I don't plan contingency plans well enough. Like it ended up being the year I won the Trap Nerd League, but his team was clearly better than mine, and we both liked all the same players, and he just fucking sniped me.
Yeah, I just drafted in a better position.
and I just didn't have the fucking contingency plans of like, this is who, like, if this guy goes, this guy goes. That's like, I get too stuck on I want these fucking players, so that's like my weakness. I got to stop fucking doing that. Like I've lost leagues because of that. 'Cause like and the crazy thing, like leagues with Al, the reason I tell oh my god, I'm sorry. The reason I tell you that playing with people who aren't as serious is harder for me than playing with people who are serious is because they fuck up my whole plan. They're drafting dudes who are fucking 40 picks
100%.
ADP behind, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
right?
you get those guys that can't even pronounce the players. I'm like, really? You're drafting that guy right now when I want him?
Yeah, so I mean, this year I'm just like, I'm picking my players, and I don't care if I'm picking them 15 spots ahead, man. Like you got to pick the players that you have, especially. We've been in the same position for the past 2 years. Like, we're in a position where it's not the same guys anymore. The first round's the same guys, but the second round, third round, fourth round, look at those rounds last year and the year before that. It's not the same guys.
Right.
Like, Garrett Wilson's moving up boards. Guys are moving down boards. Cooper, you could have gotten the 8th round. You're probably not getting him past the 4th or 5th round now. It's all over the place now. So you have to have the confidence of, we drafted Cooper in the 7th round. If we would have drafted him in the 5th round, still would have been a good pick.
Right.
Like, if we liked him that much. Just because you're reaching does not mean it's a bad pick. You have to know the people that you're drafting with as well. But yeah, moving on. Last team. Completely new team here. It's not the fucking Pittsburgh
Totally
Steelers of last
revamped.
year. Their
Not
offense
Najee.
is literally not the same, and their defense made some pretty big moves as well. So they grabbed Patrick Queen. That's a really interesting signing to me. Russell Wilson, obviously, only paying him $1 million, but I think he's making like 43 if you add on what's it called? Traded Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson. Signed Van Jefferson. Traded for Justin Fields. Signed Quez Watkins, Deion Lowry, Cordero Patterson, Scotty Miller, Cam Sutton, and Deshaun Elliott. They lost. Really, Patrick Peterson, Deontay Johnson are the only, and Mason Cole maybe are the only players of note.
Well, Kenny Pickett.
he's of note, but not on the field. It's just because like it's his name.
Yeah.
Like
he was their starter.
Yeah. I mean, the only players I they lost that might have been a loss is probably Pat Peterson, who's older, and then Deontay Johnson. I mean, you're talking
they had
about
a great
Allen
offseason.
Robinson, Presley Harvin, like people that don't really
They
matter.
drafted well. They signed guys. They did everything right.
Yeah, and then I think all of us picked the Steelers 2 years in a row as one of our top 3 draft selections. They got Troy Fontenot at pick 20, who's a guy who a lot of people had to go and pick up, like
Yeah, and I think
top
on, like,
15.
Raiders or Saints or somebody.
Zach Frazier, another offensive lineman. And this is the best thing about the Steelers is they don't just draft names, they draft identity. They get Fontenot, they get Zach Frazier, who's known for being mean and
Yeah, they're not scared. Frazier was
strong.
hurt. That Wilson kid was hurt, but there are 2 guys. If
Wilson
they were
did
healthy,
get hurt again too.
Oh, did he? But
yeah.
there's 2. Those are 2 guys who, if they weren't hurt, could have been first-round picks. They're not
Yeah.
scared to take a chance on him. Obviously, you're saying he got hurt. Maybe it backfires, but
I don't know
like
if it
that.
was serious. I just saw that he got hurt in practice. But yeah, Zach Frazier's he's like a identity guy. Same thing with Mason McCormick back in the 4th round. They get fucking Peyton Wilson, who could end up being the best linebacker in the draft. Roman Wilson, who could probably give them a lot of what Deontay Johnson gave them if he's healthy. I don't really
he
know.
got hurt too.
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson got hurt?
No.
Roman Wilson's.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's who I was talking about. Not Zach Frazier. Roman Wilson.
Oh, Roman Wilson wasn't. I was talking about the linebacker Wilson. That
Yeah,
didn't
Roman
hurt.
Wilson got hurt in camp.
Oh, I think you were talking. I was saying they take chances on guys who have injury histories.
No,
and-
okay.
Oh, so that Peyton Wilson dude didn't get hurt? Or
he
what's his
got
name?
hurt in college.
Yeah, but he's healthy now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
I
the
don't think-
things that I like that the Steelers
Yeah.
do. They get potentially the best or one of the best linebackers in the class in the 5th round.
Yeah, he's
He
currently
was the back end of the
he's
third.
slotted
Back in the third,
yeah.
behind Queen with
Yeah.
no injury designation.
Yeah, so I mean that's all, that could be an amazing pick.
I just look at this starting lineup, and I know like everyone think, oh, Roman Wilson, but man, I keep every time I'm watching something about the Steelers or reading, it's literally Calvin Austin's he's looking great. I'd like to see that guy get a chance to let him be
Where's
the
he
starter.
listed?
He's listed behind Pickens.
Oh, so he's the 2, or like
He,
who's
it's,
on the
they
other side
they
of
have them
Pickens?
So
as
right
3
now,
receivers
yeah.
set with Pickens, Jefferson, and Roman Wilson, with Najee and Freiermuth and Calvin Austin behind Pickens.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah, they
think
got Van Jefferson, yeah.
I think he could take that spot from Roman Wilson.
Yeah, Van Jefferson's not a lock to be out there all the time either.
Van Jefferson's their only other guy that has like size.
Right.
So I think they're kind
He
of
can stretch the field too.
Yeah, I doubt he'll even be a top 4 target. It's just kind of like Pickens one side, Wilson or Austin, whoever wins that battle in the slot as your safety blanket, Freiermuth safety blanket. Van Jefferson, okay, I get it. You're fucking 6 feet tall. You can go on the outside. But yeah, man, I think they're zigging while the rest of the league's zagging. Everyone's getting faster and smaller, and I think they're like, okay, well, tackle Najee behind this fucking line of 320-pound mean motherfuckers who are going to take your 230-pound linebacker and put him on his ass. Like, Mason McCormick was a guy I wanted the Bills to go after. He's a big, dirty guy. They said that Richie Incognito was his comparison. Incognito, fucking nut job, but was great on the
He was
field.
great on the field.
They're still the fucking Steelers. Like, they're still the 70 Steelers. We're going to get fucking mean. We're going to knock you on your fucking ass. We're going to tire you out. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe zigging while the rest of the league's zagging is going to come back to backfire, and you're not going to have enough speed to keep up with everyone. But you still got athletes. You still got Pickens. Roman Wilson's still a good athlete. He's a little skinny, but he's still very fast, very explosive. Same thing with Calvin Austin. But yeah, dude, offensive line, man. That offensive line is going to be one that you don't want to play. They're going to beat you the fuck up. Russell Wilson, I'll call him washed still. I still believe that, but he's hit
You
washed
think
Russell.
Fields is going to take the job?
So beginning of the offseason, it was like, that's not a chance.
Well,
As the offseason's gone on.
They declared it so that there wasn't all this, stuff.
But still, as offseason's gone on, there's still more rumblings. I don't think it's going to happen. I think in order for Fields to take that job, they have to lose a bunch of games, and I just don't see them with Mike Tomlin coaching, the improvements they got on defense, the improvements they got on their offensive line. Their floor is so high. I can't see them being like 2-5 and being like, we have to shake things up.
Yeah.
Like, they're at worst going to be 4-4.
I'm pretty sure their schedule won't get hard till the end of the year as well.
Their last like 10 weeks is insane.
So they should start off all right.
But yeah, dude, I think they did everything right. I think, like I said, don't like Wilson in most scenarios. I think bringing Wilson on your team would be a bad thing. But when you're going from Kenny Pickett to Wilson, it's still a huge.
Yeah, it's a huge. Yeah, Kenny Pickett sucks.
Yeah, I don't think Rodgers is as good as you think he is right now. It's still fucking 10 times better than Zach Wilson. So it's like you're paying a guy $1 million to be way better than a guy you were paying a first round contract to. And if he's not good, you got Fields. We've talked about this all offseason. But legitimately, I think they have the best team in the division. Obviously, Lamar and Joe Burrow make up for a lot of the things that those teams don't have that the Steelers do have. But they're the most complete team in the division, arguably in the league. I mean, if Wilson is anything like he was in college, Pat McQueen is a question mark because he was so bad before Roquan got there because he's not a true Mike. Like, you needed Roquan there to call the plays out and get everyone in position. But if Pat McQueen is in position...
Who's McQueen?
McQueen. Wow.
Pat McAfee McQueen.
That's his name, man.
He's
Lightning McQueen.
He became Irish. That's all.
Yeah, Lightning McQueen. Patrick Queen. Wow. You know what? You shouldn't have called me out. You should just let me go.
I did it the first time.
No, that's
You
why
should have let me go.
I was sitting here too, just going,
You should have
okay,
let me go the
just
whole
let it go.
episode doing it.
McQueen.
And then it would have looked like I did it on purpose.
Oh, it's awesome.
Lightning McQueen over
And
there.
have a McFlurry.
Well, okay. Yeah, the basically Patrick Queen, the issues that he was having is he was just not he was not a leader on defense. He was still the athletic freak, still a great tackler, but he was not calling plays out. Roquan Smith gets there, fixes everything.
Man's a beast.
Queen looks like a Pro Bowl or all pro type of guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if like Wilson's a rookie. I don't know if he's going to be able to do the same thing for Queen as Roquan Smith did immediately. So that would be my only concern for the moves they made, as like not being as good of a move as everyone else initially thought. But if that works itself out, everything else has improved. It's
The only thing that really scares me is their receiving core.
yeah, but I mean,
But it's their style, they don't really need it. Like, they're going to run the ball. Wilson loves to throw to running backs and tight ends. So I think they don't. It's not a big deal. But I know they were trying. There was the rumors around Ayuk and Debo and Cortland Sutton and whoever else. I would like to see them still add if they could add one of those guys. Then I think they would be like really good.
end of the day, it's definitely still not a strength of the team, but I don't think it's worse than last year. I mean, Deontay was already hurt, so it's not like you lost anything there. Roman Wilson, I think, can give you a lot of what Deontay did, and maybe will be healthy. I didn't really read into the injury report that I saw. Calvin Austin might take a step because Damon loves him. A lot of other Steelers friends love him. And then they add
was hurt
Scotty
a lot
Miller.
last year too.
Who?
Freiermuth.
Freiermuth. Yeah, Freiermuth was hurt a lot.
Yeah, they definitely added to the room, getting Wilson, Van Jefferson, and all and whoever. But I just still don't think it's good enough.
But what I will say is that Miller isn't like going to get you 1,000 yards, but they did at least add some speed to the room, which is what
Right.
they were missing last year.
And they're going to play those physical games, win 20-16. But I think for them to take like a huge step to win the division, to be a Super Bowl contender, if you do, when you play Lamar, when you play Burrow, and they've been great against Lamar, I'm just saying this. When those teams put up 24 or more points, can Wilson keep up with those receivers? That's just what I want to see. Could he keep up with Josh Allen in the playoffs, Mahomes?
Yeah.
Or will they win those games 20-17?
The reason I called Wilson trash and washed is because he doesn't have the zip on the throws that he used to, doesn't throw over the middle of the field. Maybe it was the system he was in Denver, but threw over the middle of the field, like one of the lowest in the entire league. But the coaching in Pittsburgh is probably going to realize these things, and they're going to work around it. And if the offensive line is as good as I think it's going to be, all he's got to do, I mean, they got playmakers. Wilson's going to be
You want to see Pickett.
Wilson's still got a
step,
great
too.
deep ball still. It's one thing that he hasn't lost at all. I don't know. I don't want to play him. Like I don't think anyone's going to get that offensive line. I think is going to legit be a top 5 unit this year. And then they still have TJ Watt. Like their defensive line they still got Cam Hayward.
They picked up the Swiss Army knife to help on special teams too, or in the backfield with Cordero.
Oh yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm.
AB was pissed he had his number.
What'd you say?
AB was pissed they gave him 84.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Cordero Patterson. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing. Like especially new kickoff rules, like or you can run those gadget plays that maybe they weren't able to run before. Like
Yeah, that's not a bad move.
Yeah,
Joey Porter could take a huge step. He was one of my favorite corners of his class. The other corners kind of worry me. Dante Jackson's never really been anything.
They picked up Sutton though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but he's like, Okay. I mean, I don't know, man. Every time I watch a video of
suspended,
Peyton
isn't he?
Wilson, I get
He probably will be if he already
I
isn't.
think he already is.
who Sutton.
Cam Sutton
Yeah. Peyton will every time I see a video
has
of Peyton
been
Wilson, I'm
suspended
like,
the
I can't believe-
first 8 games of the
Holy
24.
shit.
Yep, for personal conduct.
Oh wow,
What did he do again?
I forgot. He was doing some wild shit. He was like in a police chase or some shit. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think they had as good of an offseason as you possibly can without getting a top-notch quarterback.
Well, they did. He's just not the starter yet.
I hope I traded for him in Dynasty just to get 1 year out of him and then him to be a backup.
It was a domestic violence incident, and it said he eventually turned himself in. But I remember reading something like he was like on the run or some shit, like he wasn't trying to turn himself in for a while, and then he ended up doing it. So he was out here. He was in a white Bronco and shit.
Oh boy.
Yeah, fantasy-wise.
Jalen Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Big question. Yeah, that's the big question around the team. Jalen Warren or Najee Harris. Jalen Warren still 2 rounds behind Najee is like basically how he is every year.
He don't get the red zone carries, and he doesn't get as many touches. But I like Warren. He averaged like 5 yards a carry or something like that last year. He catches the ball. Wilson loves throwing to the running backs. Najee will be great too. I'll take either one of them. But I like Warren going 2 rounds later, depending like who's around when Najee gets drafted. And Pickens, I would draft.
Pickens he was like 13th. He was like really high up in total yards, but his fantasy numbers weren't that great for some reason. But yeah, I think Pickens I think his value goes up a lot with Wilson there.
Well, somebody's got to be a number 1.
Yeah, and if they don't add Ayuk or anybody, which is starting to seem less likely, then he should get a shit ton of targets.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with Pickens, he doesn't get standard scoring. He's great. No one plays standard scoring anymore. He doesn't get a lot of catches, but he does make a lot out of the catches that he does get. And maybe that changes now with Wilson, but it's almost like if you either like Najee and Warren or you like Pickens, because are they going to run the ball even more than they did last year with Arthur Smith? We know Arthur Smith likes to split the backfield up. He wouldn't even make Bijan a workhorse. So if they're going to run enough for both of those running backs to be good, how many opportunities is there really for Pickens to be good? The good thing is the Pickens ADP is awesome. You
Where's
can
he
get
at?
all 3 of those guys at decent spots, and then if one of them pops, you're doing okay. I'll tell you right now. So I'll tell you Najee and them first. So Najee is the 72nd player, 24th running back. Jalen Warren is the 88th player, 30th running back.
Oh, so he's only like a round and a half behind.
Yeah, about a round and a
Pickens
half.
has got to be in the 4th or 5th, right?
Pickens is PPR scoring. Make sure that's right. Pickens is 55th overall, 26th wide receiver.
Yeah.
I don't think 26 wide receivers are finishing ahead of.
So what's that, the 5th round?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Middle
solid.
5.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
solid.
figure. It's got to be 4th or 5th.
Yeah. So realistically, you can get all 3 of them if you have confidence in this offense, and hopefully 1 or 2 of them works. Anyone Roman Wilson, are you thinking he's going to be a decent, like worthy of a roster spot, or you think he's a couple years away?
I think
Pat
he's more of a
Freiermuth.
dynasty guy right now.
Freiermuth was a very highly regarded prospect. Been up and down. Last year was hurt. Plus Peckett just didn't throw the ball to him.
Yeah, I like Freiermuth.
Yeah, when he's in there, he's a beast.
Let's see where he's at.
He's got to be like the 10th, 11th.
I mean, he's usually good for 5 or 6, 60 yards. 5 or 6 catches, 7 catches sometimes,
Yeah.
50, 60 yards.
So Freiermuth is the 16th tight end, 139th pick. He's in between Cole Kmet, Luke Musgrave.
That's fair.
So it goes Dalton Schultz,
Look
Cole
at that.
Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Luke Musgrave, Ben Sinnott.
So
Where do you rank him out of those 5?
Say him again.
Dalton Schultz, Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Luke Musgrave, Ben Sinnott.
I'd
To
take
be fair,
Freiermuth.
there's 50 spots in between Dalton Schultz and Ben Sinnott, but that's
I
like
was gonna say,
that's
a
the
rookie.
5
That's a rookie, too.
I would take Freiermuth. I just think
over
he's,
all of them.
Yeah, I just think Dalton Schultz is on a loaded offense, so limited targets. Musgrave, limited targets. Komet, limited targets. I think Freiermuth could be the number 2 behind Pickens.
So for that same, we'll take it a step up. Dallas Goedert, because you could say a lot of the same things about Dallas Goedert, even though he is more talented.
Yeah,
than
I just
Schultz.
think he's just. I think he's just a tier better.
Okay, so he's 13.
If Freiermuth was on the Eagles, then I would just flip them like that.
Okay.
But yeah, Goddard's. Is
So
just
there's
higher
a
than me.
21 pick difference between Goddard and Freiermuth. There's an 18 pick difference between Schultz and Freiermuth.
Yeah,
What about Komet? Because I feel like
Cole Kmet is 6 picks before Freiermuth, so 133.
Okay, so that's about because I just figure.
I think I would
with
put
a
Freiermuth.
with a rookie quarterback, I really feel like Komet's just going to be like the guy. You know, everyone's worried about Allen and DJ Moore. I just have a feeling.
yeah, it's gonna be tough. You got Allen, DJ Moore, and Adunze
For
him
sure.
to.
I mean, and Caleb is. I mean, I saw a couple things they were showing, like all the starters who threw how many interceptions, and there was I mentioned last week there was a throw that Caleb made to Tyler Scott deep downfield. It was a perfect throw, perfect coverage. The only thing beating it was a perfect throw. This week I see he literally like on the go sideways throwing like Mahomes. I was like, good Lord, if this dude could do this. Well, like I'm like super excited. But
yeah, it's exciting.
So it makes him the best prospect.
oh
now.
my goodness, no, but
Three
like
firsts and
that throw right there. I forget. What was your three picks and three
I did
three
not
first
say
and
that.
TJ
That was
Watt.
Not my idea.
It was Colin Coward,
It
was
was
it?
Colin Cowherd.
Oh,
and I just said
okay.
he was right.
Okay, three.
And do not
Associate your name.
let the Bears have a better record than the Steelers. If the Bears have a better record than the Steelers, or Caleb goes out there and has a CJ Stroud type year, oh man, I'm sending gift baskets of gummy dicks to fucking every Steelers fan I know that fucking called me insane about that.
Well,
Not saying he will.
the thing is that
But-
this is a tough division. These are all 4 good teams. I just think
best division. in the league, for sure.
I just think Cleveland is Cleveland. I'll just never until that team really wins the division and goes somewhere with it. I'll always believe they're the dogs in the doghouse for a reason. But I don't know. But the Steelers, Ravens, Bengals are just so evenly. I love watching those games. I don't care if they're 16-14, 10-7. They just beat the shit out of each other. All the
Casual
time.
fans love offense.
Right.
Like diehard fans love offense too, but we can appreciate if it's a game that's 16-10 and it's good defense, I'll appreciate it. If it's a
If
game
it's
that's
boring,
if
for
it's
The
sure.
Giants and Commanders, I
It's
hate
16 to 10
the
because
NFC
they-
East is probably my least favorite played
Yeah.
football games.
yeah.
And the AFC North is fine. Like I love Ed Reed versus Palomalu. Those were
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
Right.
It's
Or-
not
or
the
just-
low scoring that bothers us. It's the
The play
you
calling.
look like
and-
fucking
yeah.
idiots.
Or,
That's
or
what it- yeah.
just pick a random Thursday night game last year, but every single one of them, for the most part, just stunk.
Broncos,
2 years ago.
Colts,
Oh
2
my
years ago.
God.
Bears,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Panthers.
like that's not
Come
good
on.
football.
Yeah.
That's
all
not
right.
defense.
So we've gone through anything else before we make our predictions. Ravens or not Ravens? Sorry, Steelers. That we need to say like fantasy wise, anything
No.
like that. Like guys that you legit want on your team. I like Najee. I like Pickens. Freiermuth at his value.
Yeah, like
I won't say I'm going to target Freiermuth, but depending on how my draft goes, I would love getting him there if I didn't get a good tight end in the beginning. But other than Pickens, I don't think I'm really targeting anyone on this team. And Najee. But you like Warren more.
Yeah, those same guys for me. If you're not drafting a quarterback room, I'm looking to grab Justin Fields late, so I got an extra starter because he is going to be the starter.
You think he's
He's
taking
going to
that
be
spot?
he's going to. Well, I don't care if it's by injury or by Wilson sucking. I say by week 6, Justin Fields has that job.
It's a bold claim, man.
Dude, the Bears, they not only didn't do anything for him, they gutted the team while they had him, and then they started basically getting rid of all of Ryan Pace's garbage while Justin Fields is on the field. Say, oh, this guy can't throw, this guy can't do this, dude. You've got guys like me that are bagging groceries or playing semi-pro football, catching the ball from him. What do you think he's gonna do? And then they go and they trade 4th pick for Keenan, 5th pick for Bates, and then they're building, they're drafting, they're doing all these things all around to bring in Poles guy. And I'm okay with that. I was down with that. I just love Justin Fields, and I think he got the shit end of the stick, and I really hope he does well for Pittsburgh.
See, I do agree with you. I do think that he got the shit under the stick, but I'm not all the way in on him either. I've also seen him hold the ball way too long, and maybe that's because no one's open, whatever. I don't know. Like, I do have my question marks for him. Even in a good offense, I don't know if he'd be good, but I do think he deserves a shot, and I do think in the long run, I don't think Russell Wilson can win the Steelers are Super Bowl. I just don't.
I
I
don't
just don't
think
think it. It's a
it'll- I
very
don't-
it's a very low chance. I'm not going to say no chance, so people's heads don't explode. It's a very low chance, regardless of how good your team is, that Russell Wilson in this form wins you a Super Bowl.
Right. I don't know.
So, in my opinion, I would rather take the risk on the guy with the high ceiling, see what I got, and then see if I need to draft in the future.
Sure, 100%. And the thing is, like, now you've got both of those guys on 1-year deals. You can see what's what. You can pay Fields if you want to or not. But for me, it's like I completely understand. Before I even make this statement, anybody jumps through the roof. When you're playing college football and you have the playmakers and you're able to make those throws and make those reads, the speed is different. I completely get it. But everyone, like Justin Fields was throwing to Olave and Garrett Wilson. Like, give the guy some playmakers.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I want him to have some play. He did not have, like, he had DJ Moore. Look at the season DJ Moore had. That wasn't, I mean, yeah, backups were in a couple times, but the very bottom line for me is that Justin Fields is an athlete, but he's also an intelligent athlete. He has, I probably have said this before, scored the highest on the NFL aptitude test, higher than Mahomes. The guy just needs the right system, the right coach. This whole rebuild was bullshit. They screwed him. I don't care what anybody says. I could be wrong, and I know people are like, oh, he didn't do it. Fine, I get it. You're looking at what black and white. I watched Justin Fields throw rockets and dimes to those guys and against Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, he definitely has the
I
talent.
understand you're not throwing the ball against Trevor Lawrence, but in those games, in that one particular game where Fields threw 5 touchdowns, it was against Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, that's where, so me and Damon's biggest disagreement is the potential versus what has already happened. Like, he's very big on what has already happened. I'm very big on potential, and he's right. A lot of teams lose a lot of games and go far back because they believe in potential.
Sure.
True. But the teams that end up winning the Super Bowls and do that, also because they went with the potential.
100%.
There was a
I
lot
agree.
of people who were safer picks than Pat Mahomes. There were a lot of, and I was wrong about Josh Allen, but there was a lot of people who thought that there was safer picks than Josh Allen. They went with potential, and they got the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. To me, Russell Wilson, you know what he is, you know what you're getting, and you need to be perfect in a playoff game to win a playoff game with Russell Wilson. To me, you go with the potential, you see what you got, and if Fields isn't good in that system, then you can honestly say he
Right.
probably won't be good
And
anywhere.
it didn't cost
and
you
go
anything
draft
more
a
than
really
a
good quarterback.
six-round draft.
It's
Let
why I
that
hated-
guy play, man.
I hated the Kenny Pickett pick, and it was the same thing. I didn't see his potential, and Damon was like, "Oh, well, give him a chance," and I'm like, "I just don't see the potential." To me, that's what potential. It's either because you can be a really bad team, you could be a middling team, and you can be a really good team. The really bad teams usually it's because of front office.
Mhm.
They when they do draft good players, they don't put them in good positions.
The
middling
Bears
teams
are the perfect example of that.
the middling teams are teams like the past couple of years, the Steelers, because they're just trying to get a minimal thing out of their quarterback because they know the rest of their team's so good. The Jets would have been a middling team, but Zach Wilson's so bad. My point
The
is,
Saints, the
if you're just gonna keep
Buccaneers, all
getting-
those teams.
yeah,
that
you're gonna keep getting the
average
16th
quarterbacks to
pick,
plug in.
the 17th pick, the 18th pick. You're never going to find your quarterback. So you might as well throw some guy with the potential out there. And if he sucks, get a really good pick and start again next year with someone who has potential as well. I don't like it's the same thing in the NBA. It's the same thing in the NFL. If you're the fucking 7 seed, if you're the 8 seed, if you're a wild card team or a borderline wild card team, where are you going? If you don't have a quarterback, where are you
100%.
going?
It's a
Because you're not going to get a good
quarterback-driven
quarterback
league.
at your. And that was my. Even though I do believe the 3 first-round picks and TJ Watt is a bit of an exaggeration, I still stand by my logic behind it of potential. You need the potential, and then you need to realize that potential.
Sure.
Russell Wilson is not going to get better. He's
We
only
got
going to get
upset
worse.
watching games last because we all like Russ. Like it's a guy who's been a consummate professional. Won the Super Bowl.
I don't like that dude.
But
I hate
I'm
that
saying, well, we've gotten to the point where it's like, where he's there, it's just like he's like throwing ground balls, like, and we're just like he's starting to look like Cam Newton, forcing the ball
Yeah.
sideways, doing what it just looks lost. To me, I don't know, man. Like you literally, the Bears gave you 2 gifts. They gave you basically a first rounder that was a second rounder before.
Yeah, you Joey Porter for Claypool.
For Claypool, and then you get Justin Fields for a 6th round pick. Let the guy play, man.
Yeah,
Let
I
him
will-
play. You're signing him to a 1-year deal. Let him play. And if you're not going to start him, put him in the backfield. The guy can run.
Yeah, but you got Fields for a 6th-round pick. You don't need to let him play. Russell Wilson's old. They need to see if he can. He's a proven winner. In this case, I agree with the Steelers. Let Russell Wilson play. Maybe he was bad because Denver or whatever was going on. He won a Super Bowl. Justin Fields doesn't win games, whether it was because of the Bears or his own
Right.
thing. Let Wilson play, and then if he struggles, you think he'll struggle, let Justin Fields play by week 6. I don't see that happening because the Steelers' schedule early on is too easy. Maybe Wilson plays so bad that they win like 10-6, and they're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
fuck this guy. But I think Russell Wilson has to start. He's the experienced.
Oh, he's
vet.
going to start. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about it.
he's the guy that's won games. I'm with you on potential over what have you done for me. I am that. I'm with you. In this case, though, Justin Fields shouldn't start over Russell Wilson.
Oh, he's not
So-
now. There's no way that. But I guess the flip side of what you said that makes me think about is if you sign both of them to 1-year deals. If Justin Fields, let's say, doesn't get to play, are you going to pay him $20 million next year
That's
after
the-
Russell
that's the
Wilson?
Nobody
issue.
will, though.
That's true. No one
Nobody
wanted to trade
will.
for him. That's true. No
Not
one.
one, he went for a 6th-round pick because nobody was knocking at the door.
Right, but I'm just saying,
To be
if
fair,
you're the
but since
Steelers,
then all these big quarterback contracts came out, so maybe someone will take the risk on him now because
Right.
they're like, I don't want to pay. If
yeah,
the
I don't have to
Raiders lose
pay
out on
$50 million
Dak,
as that guy's getting ready to
Yeah.
get his extension.
Yeah,
I'll give,
maybe.
yeah,
But I
maybe
just
the
don't see it.
Cowboys, maybe Dak signed $62 million in fucking Vegas,
Vegas, yeah.
and then the Cowboys can't just throw out Trey Lance, so they're
Yeah.
gonna be like, I'll give him $20 million because now $20 million is the new $5 million. So so I'm not 100% like, oh, Justin Fields should start right now unless he obviously wins camp.
Yeah.
It's just that what is your end goal with Russell Wilson in my opinion?
It's a Super Bowl.
I know Steeler fans believe that.
That's what the front office believes, too, though.
I know, but the thing I think right now is the past success of the Steelers can almost be a hindrance on their future success because they're not willing to have a bad year.
Yeah, their biggest weakness is trying to keep Tomlin's 500 streak.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
I was
something
just
that
gonna
they
say that.
celebrate. They love that the guy's never had a losing season.
That's really, it's not really the conversation of Russell Wilson and Fields. It's more the conversation of that's the mode they're stuck in, and I think that's why they're going with Russell Wilson.
Or do
because
you-
they're too afraid to have a losing season. Because when's the last time they were really bad? And in today's NFL, it's either you're gonna go and sign a guy like Dak, or Fields is the guy that we thought he was, or Russell Wilson is very average and you're perfect. Those are the only routes to being
Or
Super
maybe
Bowl
Wilson
contender now.
on a better team is still Russell Wilson.
Which I agree. Well, he's not. That there's no world where he's still the same guy.
Yeah,
he could be better.
They had a
but
good
there's no
offense
world
in
where he's the same
Denver
guy.
that
You can
he
see it
could've-
physically.
Yeah, I just
I don't know. They had a bad offensive line. They had bad running backs. Like,
I'm not saying he can't be good. I'm saying he can't be who he
well,
once
no, he's
was.
not going to be the MVP
Yeah,
candidate that he once
that's-
was. But he was. What people don't realize about Russell Wilson, which is unfair to him, is he never, in my opinion, has really been one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He played with Marshawn Lynch in one of the best defenses to ever play.
But when that team broke down, there was like a 2 or 3 year stretch where he was still very.
But they weren't a Super Bowl contender.
They weren't Super
anymore.
Bowl contenders, but he was
That's
bringing
what
them
people
the
don't
playoffs.
realize. That's true. I mean, he deserves he is good.
right.
But I'm just saying he never was. Like when the Broncos got him, I think they were expecting Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen type level from him.
I think they were expecting the guy who was throwing for 4,000
yeah, he was obviously
Yeah.
horrible compared to
I
what
think that's what they were.
They
doing.
were
like,
expecting that, but when
what
they
they
got,
traded for though was a
Yeah,
top
yeah.
5 quarterback. He
100%.
never
Yeah.
I don't think at any point in his career was.
No, I
Right.
don't think so either.
he was
yeah.
throwing to Doug Baldwin. That was
Yeah.
his number one.
I just think I like Russell Wilson. He's had a great career. He's overcome the odds, but I just don't think he ever was as good as people act like he is.
Yeah.
And I think the Steelers know that, and I think that's why he's in a perfect spot.
And correct me if I'm wrong. He was drafted in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
3rd or 4th.
Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't
pick
like
after
it wasn't
TJ Graham.
even like he came
Oh,
into
wow.
the league as like a big prospect.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
He was a baseball player
Yeah.
too.
So we already know my feelings about it. I've already got torn apart. I think I know it's because I said no chance. I think there's a very low chance that they're a Super Bowl contender.
I do too. I think they're good though.
What do you,
And
like,
when you're
what,
good
like,
enough to get there, the thing is when you get to the NFL playoffs, like Eli Manning was never good enough to win the Super Bowl and he got 2. Aaron Rodgers was always
But I
good enough
think
to win the
it's a
Super Bowl and only got
different league
1.
now.
It is. I'm just saying, but the Steelers
I don't
still
think
playing
that
the way
Giants
that.
team beats I don't think that Giants team does that in this era. So like especially in the AFC, right? It's like, okay, you get to the playoffs, that you play the Chiefs. Like, okay, the Chiefs have a really good defense too.
Yeah. Well,
So
the Chiefs are just a perfect team right now.
So it's like
To me, they're by far the favorites. It's not even close.
you play the Ravens, and the Ravens
They
have the
always beat them,
possibility of having in the playoffs. Like, it's a different
Well,
story.
they never played them there, but
I know.
I would take them more so in the playoffs. Russell Wilson.
New
over
England
Lamar.
beat us in the regular season. We played in the playoffs. We beat them 47-17. Like,
Yeah,
it's
but I'm taking Russell Wilson over Lamar in the playoffs.
truly.
In the
I know
Steelers,
Lamar's been
Ravens,
bad.
I'm not saying I would take Russell Wilson on the Ravens. I'm saying I would take the Steelers over the Ravens. I would trust Russell Wilson to make the plays that he needs to make for his team over Lamar.
Yeah, until Lamar does.
Yeah.
Until Lamar proves
See,
that.
I'm the first one to say Lamar needs to prove it, but I don't know, dude. When's the last time? No, I can't do
What's
it.
Russell Wilson gonna, or what's Lamar gonna do? Put up 13 points again? Russell Wilson could do that.
13 points might.
It
be.
might be.
That's
I'm gonna take
but
my
those
chances
those
with
are
the
those
Steelers.
games. That's exactly what I talk about. 14-10, 16-14, 13-10. Like those. That's what those games,
plays that T.J. Watt and Fitzpatrick and those guys make. I think are just too much.
I think they're good enough. Like you said, they are good enough to beat anyone because of how good their defense is, because of how good their offensive line is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But football is starting to get to the point of basketball where it's like, I don't care how good the rest of your team is. That's LeBron James. I don't care how good the
But
rest
it's
of your
also
team
a
is. That's
7-game
Steph
series.
Curry. True.
Like I
They
would
can
never.
win-
If
yeah, but you
I
still
would
have to
tell
win
Damon
3
and
or
those
4
guys,
games.
The Steelers have 0% chance to beat the Chiefs in a best-of-7 series.
Yes.
But I will give them a shot in one game.
But what I'm saying is, it's not a best-of-7 series against one team, but you still have to win 4 games in a row. Like, you have to be perfect, in my opinion, for Russell Wilson to beat Lamar Jackson, for Russell Wilson to beat Pat Mahomes, for Russell Wilson to beat Josh Allen. You have to have 3 or 4 straight perfect games, because that's how much better those quarterbacks are than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my reasoning for putting such a low shot on them.
but even winning 4 games, that's only getting you one series in the NBA. You got to win 16 games in the NBA.
1,000%.
So that's why I
1,000%.
I think the NFL, that's what makes it fun and sucky for people like Bills fans and Aaron Rodgers. Like, we've had the best teams over the last 10 years, and we have nothing.
I think I think the Bills lost to teams that were better than them. Like, I don't think the Bills.
I don't know, that 13-second year, I think you guys beat them in a best-of-7.
You think so?
I think you guys win the Super Bowl.
no.
That was, to me, you guys were the best that year.
Best of 7 helps the Chiefs so much because they have the best coaching staff in football.
Yeah, I mean,
their
maybe,
adjustments would be
that's
insane.
definitely
that's
something to talk about
such
too,
a
but I don't know,
tough
man. You guys had that.
You got that was definitely like a heavyweight title fight. That you guys could have knocked each
It
other
always is.
out. Well,
Last year
it's
it
not.
was too.
It isn't always.
It is.
Like,
The last
Every
couple,
time
the
the
last
Bills-
couple of times you guys have met has been fun, but prior to that, it was still like you guys got to try to climb the mountain. You still got to try to climb the mountain.
Last
I don't
year
think
was a
the
great
Bengals
game,
beat
too.
the Chiefs in the AFC Championship down
No.
21-3.
They
Like,
might not be the Titans.
yeah, that's why football is
Yeah.
tough to win, and
Yeah.
that's why, as much as everybody hates Eli Manning, I always give him credit. It's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I think
They had a
Russell
formula.
Wilson
They had
is
a
the
formula.
guy that you say he's got to play. They got to play perfect, and that's fair. But he's not going to really lose them the game either.
Oh, I agree.
And that's
I agree.
huge for them.
I
In
agree.
Especially
in the
in the
cold
playoffs.
weather.
Especially in the playoffs.
Kansas City's
He's not
cold,
gonna lose the
Buffalo's
game.
cold, Baltimore's cold, Cincy's cold, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. The only place that he really could see himself in a shootout is Houston, where if they're in the dome in Houston, that's really the only shootout he'd probably get in. Where I would say, okay,
I forgot about Houston.
yeah, I could say, okay, he might get fucked up in Houston because their defense, even last year, couldn't stop Houston at the time, and now you add Diggs and Mixon and whatever else. I don't know. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I don't think the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl either, but I think I would take them over the Ravens if they played in the playoffs. Unless Derrick Henry was able to run for $150 or something like that.
Do you pick them over the Ravens in the division?
No, because
Yeah,
I
let's get
think
to that. That's good. Good.
yeah, I think Lamar. Yeah, I'll start it up. I still got the Ravens winning it because as much as I hate Lamar in the playoffs, he's a regular season god. Harbaugh's a regular season god, and you got the best kicker or one of the best kickers in the league in Tucker. And yeah, I mean, I still think the Ravens are too good, so I got them winning it. What about you?
I love and I've always loved Harbaugh, and I've always followed and cheered for the Ravens. Even last year, I would bet the Ravens like, we're gonna win, we're gonna win. Then they get to the playoffs, I'm like, they're gonna knock the Chiefs out. They're gonna knock the Chiefs out. Yeah, okay. With that said, as much as I love the Ravens, I got the Bengals winning this division this year.
Yeah, I like it.
I want to go off of let's just pick it healthy, and I want to pick the Bengals. But until I see Joe Burrow be healthy, not have a ridiculously slow start of the season because he's still nursing his wrist, I gotta pick the Ravens. I do like if Burrow's healthy, I think he's gonna win it. Not to get myself like a backdoor out of this, but until I see it, I can't believe it.
Oh, like I said, I like the Ravens. I just feel like, again, to me, I said it once, I stick with my guns. You got a team like the Ravens, a team like the Lions playing that first place schedule. Those second place teams or second tier teams, so to speak, are going to jump them. That's just but I also know that last year, if Burrow's healthy, we might have saw. But the Ravens, to me, were the most complete team. And then they fell apart when they needed it the most. And that, I think, is what separates those elite teams from the good teams, because San Fran did the same exact thing at the wrong time. They made the plays when they needed to against the Packers, but then they didn't make the plays when they needed to against Kansas City. So
that's because Mahomes.
Well, Mahomes is Mahomes. There's no doubt
San
about
Fran
it.
had the lead. In
That's what I'm saying. They didn't make their plays when they needed to. All they did was make a stop. But then you also give up almost 70 yards rushing to Mahomes. Like he took whatever way he needed to get to his team to win, and that's why the Chiefs are the Chiefs.
I pray Josh Allen gets a 17 Mahomes game one day.
But I wouldn't put no money on the AFC North though.
No,
I wouldn't put it on any of my parlays that I'm going to do for divisions. It's the one division in football that I just think is it's the best division in football. Because even as much as we hate on the Browns, and they are going to be my fourth place team, I mean they're really good too.
Yeah, if Watson's average, they're still a hard.
But you're talking about Russell Wilson and all that. Like Watson could play that style, and Cleveland could be great.
Yeah. Especially if their defense is healthy. Like I said, I don't know, man. To me, the Browns are the Browns, and they just never get anywhere.
Number 2, who do you got?
I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Same.
Yeah, just Joe Burrow is that dude. We talk about is Lamar better than Burrow? Is Burrow better than Lamar? We both think they're solidified as the third and fourth best quarterback. So I'm not going to assume injury. I'm just going to assume that Burrow's going to be healthy. He's going to be an MVP candidate. Jamar Chase is going to crush.
I'm not assuming like a long-term injury. I'm just saying if you start slow, I don't think you're going to
Which
catch
is why
the
I
Ravens.
have Baltimore being ahead, and Cincy will be 2. Mm-hmm. Who you got 2?
I got the Ravens 2. I like I said, I do appreciate what they've done, the team they've built. They've gone out and got Henry, which to me, if there was a weakness on that team, it was because there was too much running back by committee, and that's why, Lamar was out running all the time. Let the guy just sit there and throw the ball, and now take some pressure off of each other.
Yeah. They finally have a running back
off of each other, not just the quarterback.
Not because of the scheme, but is good because he's good.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So let him do what he's supposed to do. Like he's out constantly saying, I'm not a running back, I'm a quarterback. Well, let's really see that. And now you've got one of the elite running backs in the league. And that defense, Jesus. I love my guy Roquan. I always will. I've thought about ordering a Roquan jersey multiple times, but I just can't bring myself to do it. So I got the Ravens. I just think they're a complete team. I just feel like Joey B has that swagger to just come back and say, screw everybody. I'm that guy.
He's got to change his hair, though.
He's got it. Yeah. Eminem doesn't need to be quarterback in the Bengals. That's for sure.
He's either going to win the division. He's going to win the Super Bowl or fucking they're going to have the first pick. Like that. He's either going to come through like a fucking psychopath and just have no emotion behind his eyes and just start darting people.
A little bit of that is ego, though. That's where he's probably like, hey, don't forget about me. Like, you haven't, I didn't say anything because I was hurt. Hey, look at me. But, you've seen what he does. He wears fur coats and bling. Like, he's having fun. That I was surprised at.
I read something that was for, like, a cancer patient or something, too. So
but the blonde is cool. I don't care about the shaved head. It's the blonde.
Third, I'm going to go Steelers.
Damn, I can't give my reasoning.
I thought you said Bengals.
Yeah, but I didn't get my reason. It's okay.
You know what it was, though?
Because third, I have Steelers too. It's all right. It's okay.
You had the Bengals so close to winning the division that I was just like, they're definitely coming in second for you because you were right there with them.
Well, I think I was just gonna. It has something to do with the Steelers anyway. So I was just gonna say, like, I do think the Steelers are a better team. I just think they have the hardest schedule. Browns have the third hardest schedule.
Yeah, Bengals getting that last place schedule is huge.
So, like, realistically, if they had the same strength of schedule, I would probably pick the Steelers. But that last 10 games, I think it's 10 games, 10 game stretch is fucking insane.
Yeah, they play like 3 times in like 10 days or some shit.
Yeah, and one of them's the Chiefs. It's not like they play.
The Chiefs are also one of the Uncle Joe was complaining
it's the Chiefs,
about
Ravens,
that.
Texans, and Steelers.
Yeah,
the NFL needs to get the shit together, dude.
3 NFL games.
Paid so much money for Christmas.
Yeah, but still, like this is all right.
Well, I guess you're gonna pick different teams.
You gotta,
yeah,
and you gotta put bye week or something. You have to figure it out.
Yeah, give them travel time. Come on, man.
people 3 games, and I mean, as a Bills fan, sure, let our fucking biggest competition play 3 games in 10 days, but that is ridiculous. That the safety.
Those teams should all agree to play backups in that game on Netflix.
I would, yeah.
Well, the Chiefs definitely can, but the Steelers are going to be in a dogfight.
Which week is it? Like 15?
It's late in the season, Christmas, so I mean that's.
It's got to be week like 16. Yeah, week 16 because New Year's usually week 17. Yeah.
So I mean, the Chiefs will have the division wrapped up unless they're going for the 1 seed. Like they could play Carson Wentz and some of their younger guys and just say fuck Netflix.
That's still a lot because when people say, "Oh, well, football." It is not just like a contact sport. It is a barbaric collision sport.
I can't
These
believe
guys
that
are
doing this.
they are literally slamming into each other every play.
Every play, yeah.
I can't. But yeah, so I think the Steelers are better than the Bengals. It's just that schedule's nuts. I mean, they can be really good and still win 7 games. So I'm going to take the Steelers at 3, and then obviously the Browns at 4.
Yeah, we'll go Steelers, Browns as well. And I mean, honestly, I think any of these teams can come 1 through 4
for sure.
And it's going to come down to a couple plays and a couple injuries and a couple calls from the refs, and could really change this division around.
Before we even talked about it, I literally in my head was like Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns. The Steelers to me are on their. They're another team. They just keep middling. Yeah, they don't have a losing season, but like you said, when you're getting the 17th or 18th pick, are you really going to get your quarterback? They got, they took Pickett.
That was at 22.
That was at 22. Like,
yeah, but it's just a waste of a pick at that point. It's like I get it, you need a quarterback, but like if this guy doesn't have the tools to be a modern day elite quarterback, it's a waste of a pick.
But he was also 24, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was an old quarterback.
Yeah,
so
he doesn't have any physical trait that you look at and it's like, wow. It was just a waste of a pick.
Yeah, it's not a knock on the Steelers. They obviously draft.
Otherwise,
well,
they drafted amazing.
Yeah, they draft well and they make
yeah.
good. They make good trades, and their front office has always been great. But the thing is that in a league dominated by prolific passing quarterbacks, you have to go and get that guy. That's why I'm like, finally, for me, I'm hoping the Bears have finally done that. But I have watched misery for the majority of my life with this team where wide receivers and quarterbacks go to die.
But I think that's why me and you put quarterbacks way higher than people like Damon and other Steelers fans because they haven't had to deal with bad quarterbacks.
Right.
It's been 5-6 years that they've had to deal with bad quarterbacks where it was like the Bills legit had probably 3 or 4 playoff teams that didn't make the playoffs because they had bad quarterbacks. Same thing with the Bears. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like literally, like if I had the confidence in Caleb and Josh Allen and it took 3 firsts to get Josh Allen, I would have done it. Because it's like, figure the rest out later.
Yeah, look what the Rams did.
And it's maybe we're wrong and we're desperate and we value quarterbacks way higher because we dealt with that our entire lives. But I think that's why they don't like the Steelers, best franchise in the game. They won a shit ton of Super Bowls in the 70s when it was a cloud of dust. 2000s were like the last era where like running backs were very important. You could win. And Ben was fucking amazing. So it's not like they had a bad quarterback, but you could win even with a guy like Eli. You could come close with a guy like Rex Grossman. It will never happen again. Or maybe it will, but it's 10 years down the line.
Yeah, it's not happening now.
It's not happening now.
Right.
So that is why maybe I look insane and I'm like, I'll trade 3 firsts and TJ Watt for Caleb Williams because I've seen the Bills have defensive player of the years and then miss the playoffs. I've seen the Bills have a number 1 defense and miss the playoffs. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yep.
Like if it's insane, it's insane. I'll be insane to get insane. I'll be insane to get some guy who might be close to what the top 5 quarterbacks are. Yeah. Because having TJ Watt has done nothing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's awesome seeing him win Defensive Player of the Year. It's awesome seeing that shit happen. You haven't seen a playoff win.
And the Bills probably would have a Super Bowl if Patrick Mahomes wasn't born.
Yeah, they probably have 3.
Like it's just one of those things where, like what Michael Jordan did to a bunch of the superstars. Like,
and they all talk about it.
Yeah, we could clown Charles Barkley and Malone and whoever. Like we could clown Josh Allen. And the Steelers fans can even tell you, like, what has Josh Allen done for the Bills? Well, it's just Patrick Mahomes right now.
Yeah.
And Elijah got 2 because Michael was playing baseball. Like there's all kinds of stuff.
So I get what you're saying. I'm not sure I would go as far as what Colin was talking about. But I can understand your point.
I wouldn't either, and that was never the main point of it. I just think that...
And Pickens was involved in his trade, too. Collins.
Okay, yeah.
That's what also made it crazier when you brought it to us, is that it was T.J. Watt, George Pickens, and 3 firsts.
I think I said I would have taken Pickens out, but it doesn't matter. end of the day, that's like I'm not just going to the Bears and saying that. I'm just saying like if the Bears came to me and said that, I would probably say yes. Like it's just I don't care. I don't apologize for it. You could think it is insane. It's not, but it's like
Well, Caleb's supposed to be that good. That's why they did Fields like that.
Right,
They were like, "Fuck this guy."
But well, that's the thing. And Poles did what he wanted to do. He made the godsend trade that they got Carolina's first. They got DJ Moore. They got a couple seconds. It was like literally they got 2 picks in each of the next 3 drafts or whatever.
And then if they don't trade one of the seconds
then,
with Chase Claypool,
and then they ended up getting Carolina's pick, which ended up being number 1.
Right.
Like, you couldn't have did it any better, really.
Yeah, but keep going with what you were saying.
yeah, I mean it's just it's the same thing I've always said. I just like maybe like even if Caleb is bad, I'd be okay with it. Like it's just
You have to try.
You have to try.
You're only going to get that type of guy by trying.
Yeah.
You're not going to land Caleb Williams in free agency or with the 20th something pick most of the time.
Especially, I think with the Steelers, the reason I kind of was saying that is because it's a double-edged sword. You have the Tomlin thing where you want to keep your winning streak alive or your non-losing streak alive. So you're never going to have the pick.
And he's getting old. He don't want to wait.
Yeah, you're never going to have the pick to get that guy. So you're not going to have the pick because of the way you want to keep being competitive. So then you're going to have to trade. And if you want to trade, I'm not taking anything less than your best player for a guy who's been compared to Caleb Williams.
I think the Steelers and teams like that's best hopes moving forward is the guy like Dak Prescott.
Or that the NFL changes again.
Yeah.
Like maybe and that I think that's what they're kind of playing into with like the mean big offensive line.
Yeah, they're trying to force it.
And getting Queen and getting Wilson like I think they're kind of trying to build an old school team, and maybe it does change that way and they look very smart.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't change that way, I just don't see the chance is so infinitesimal of you winning a Super Bowl with the way that you're acting now. So it's cool. It's cool because you have the 6 already. So that's fine. If you don't win for another 20 years,
yeah, those guys can die.
And
they had a good sports life.
If they had 0 right now, I think they'd be more inclined to agree with me. Like if they had 0 Super Bowls and you need to take these big risks to get that first one, I think they would be more inclined.
We're spoiled, Packers and Steelers fans. We don't have to feel what you guys have felt, so we are kind of like arrogant and spoiled and think like we don't have to do that. We don't suck. We'll take Russell Wilson and fucking we'll pay Jordan Love and that shit's gonna work because that's what we do type shit. So
I was literally just gonna say these guys don't either at least half their life or the majority of their life have watched football with Favre and Favre, Rodgers, and now Love for him. You've seen Big Ben in Pittsburgh for so long. People like that are Patriots fans. They watch Brady for 20 years. Like they don't know what it's like to not have a good quarterback.
Yeah, but look at the Patriots, man. They were like, all right, we suck. They didn't move heaven and earth to win 9 games.
No.
And then now they got Drake May. And Drake May, if he's as good as I think he is, it's going to be the Patriots and the Bills the next 10 years. Like it's not going to be the Jets and the Dolphins there.
Well, so the Jets literally, I think, are trying to do what the Rams did. They just didn't. But for me, like look, that trade right there, look at what that trade did for both of those teams. The Rams got the quarterback in a Super Bowl, and the Lions have made well with their picks. Like now they're quote unquote the class of our division. But I mean, I know Harry don't believe that. I only believed it last year. I don't believe it anymore.
And even speaking of things being perfect, like again, not to take from the Rams, they did well, but for them to make it, the Packers had to choke again. We were probably going to beat the shit out the Rams if they came to Lambeau for the championship game.
The Bengals had the half
and
of their life.
And the Bengals weren't better than the Bills and the Chiefs. The Chiefs shouldn't have beat the Bills probably, and the Bengals damn sure shouldn't have beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
If I said that right.
Yeah.
So speaking of things need to be perfect, like, and that did work out for the Rams, we'll never be able to take that away from them. That shit worked pretty perfectly for them. They didn't face Rodgers, fucking Mahomes, or Allen.
Yeah, but you know what it took? It took a no-look, beautiful throw from Matt Stafford.
Oh no, he played well, and they were a great team. I'm just saying, like, but those things could also happen. For
everyone,
but they took that chance. Like he's saying for the 3 first, like they took that chance. They gave away those first.
No, they did. But I'm saying
they didn't even get the top
teams like
prospect.
the Steelers could get that luck too in the playoffs. Where maybe they face Stroud and
it
Lamar instead of Mahomes and Allen somehow, however the fuck it happens.
And the Rams didn't even get the top prospect. They got the guy that was quarterback Super Bowl ready.
Yeah, they just thought, okay, the Lions suck.
We're throwing away our future to win right now.
And somehow they're still good, so shout out to the fucking Rams.
Well, McVay's
no Aaron Donald, no first-round picks. Who gives a fuck? They're still going to be a playoff
team. Well, they had
team.
Aaron Donald last year.
He kind of stunk. Like for what he was.
Yeah, he wasn't Aaron Donald. But
so I think they'll be. I think
he
they
was
could
still
be okay
drawing
him.
those double teams that helped.
Yeah, but I just don't think it's going to be as big as a loss as it sounded at first. Like, they proved that him not being as good or productive, even if it was him drawing attention, like, it's still impressive. Puka Nacua and shit, like. But that's a conversation for next Tuesday for the NFC West.
Yep.
Yeah. So next week, NFC West, we'll finish up our divisions. I kind of want to do 2 divisions, just get it done.
Yeah, get it done.
We
So we
gotta
can get into fantasy. Yeah, for sure.
So maybe we'll do both West divisions because AFC West, there's not much to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
And then the East divisions the week after that, and then we'll just hammer some fantasy football. Thank you guys for listening. Trap Nerd Sports everywhere. Let us know what you feel about your opinions. If you're a Browns fan, we all picked you guys to get in last. You can call us pieces of shit.
I think you guys are all right, though. You guys are just the
They're
Browns.
all right. They're just the Browns because they're the Browns.
Yeah, so I'm sure.
I'm
sure.
I would rather
all the
my
Steelers
team.
fans
My
are
team's dog shit right now. So
Yeah,
we'll
they're not
see.
going to be happy with.
They're
the
not going to be happy with.
picks.
They're not going to be happy with all the good things I said about them, but they're just going to focus in on the things I said that weren't favorable. I'm sure of it. But
all the good shit's overweighed by being told their season's going to be a failure. 3rd place and no Super Bowl.
it's their fucking
Yeah, that
their
division's
schedule,
tough,
man.
That division's tough.
Dude, if the Bills had their schedule, I might understand why people were picking the Dolphins. Like, I wouldn't be as offended if the Bills had the Steelers schedule. I'd be like, okay, I fucking get it. Like, you can literally lose all of those games and still be a good team.
Right. I get it.
I don't think you guys suck, all right? Don't kill me. Kill me in the comments, though. Thank you guys so much. Trap Nerd Sports everywhere. Peace.
We got a live show coming up.
Oh,
Hold on.
yeah.
Not
Oh,
peace yet.
yes. Sorry. Trap Nerd Sports Defensive Players League this Sunday.
Yes,
yeah,
the
this
4th.
Sunday will be a live show.
The 4th at 4.
Yeah, 4th at 4 p.m. Live show. We'll have most of the league here. We'll still have the Tuesday show after that, and that is when we'll do the divisions.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. But yeah, live show at 4 will be entertaining. Last live show was awesome. We really appreciate your support on those ones. But yeah, we got to get out of here. Thank you so much for listening. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.